Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
Good presents. Me and Alex both got pillows.
We
were
did
talking
get
about.
pillows.
Very
got
excited.
pillows?
And pots. We both got pots,
And pots.
too.
Yep.
Pillows and pots.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Barth.
Yes, he's on.
Weird.
Yeah, he's complaining about how early he had to wake
But
up. Kendra
Yeah.
was on with that,
Yeah.
doing on the third
Caught a
chair.
little of them as I was
Yeah.
driving in.
Yeah.
They got good
Yeah.
chemistry.
Okay.
We're just desperately trying to set Barth up with anyone.
Tell me about it. Like literally anyone.
At one point, he's just like,
He's-
"Are you feeling this
He's
right
single,
now?"
ladies. All right.
Would you say the mood was festive day after Christmas?
This free sushi definitely helped.
Okay.
The mood was very
Well, I
high.
was talking about the players first.
Oh, I thought you were talking about us.
Oh, I'll get
Because
to that.
we matter a lot.
We're all dying to know if you got the Lego Orca
Oh, yeah.
deuce.
No.
Oh.
No.
I got slippers, 2 button-down shirts, a pot, as Alex mentioned as well. Love everything,
You
but,
got
but no
pot?
toys.
Nice.
I'm gonna take the hook though. I'm gonna take Denver. I'll take that extra half point. I think it's a close one.
Mike, I just wanted to congratulate you for using all of those terms properly.
Thank you.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
All right, welcome to Patriots Unfiltered. It is Tuesday, New Year's Eve, here at Gillette Stadium. And I don't know if we want to talk about that last game.
Which one was it?
It's Deuce, it's Evan, it's Paul, it's me, it's Matt in the booth. 40-7 loss to the Chargers. Not good. Not good.
No?
There
was nothing good.
Yeah, at home.
Not good, Bob.
Just terrible. So, I don't know. I think maybe we turn the page from that game because, as Gerard said afterwards, there's nothing good to be taken from that game.
Except Cole Strange just snaps at center.
Except for that, maybe.
There you
Yep.
go. There you go.
But, maybe we start talking about the game coming up against the Bills and the ramifications of winning versus losing, playing Drake Maye versus not playing Drake Maye. What do you guys think? I don't know.
Yeah.
Unless there's something you want to get off your
No,
chest from
if
the
people
game.
want to call in about the specific things about the game, certainly we can go
Yeah.
back to them. But I think that's the number one storyline right now is how you're going to treat this game. And I know people have strong feelings about
I
it.
have takes.
The number
Yeah.
the number one pick is more important, and keeping Drake Maye healthy is more important, and all that stuff. People feel strongly about it.
I
I
have
don't think that's
takes.
the number one story, but it's definitely
Well,
the number one story today.
Yeah.
What would you say is the number one story?
the future.
Oh, okay.
probably not
Well,
something.
we're not going to know about that
Yeah.
until next week.
Right. We'll take first things first.
Right? That is what you were talking about,
Yeah.
right?
What happens after this game?
What happens Monday morning?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think the biggest thing with this Chargers game, just quickly, that was the only thing you could not do if you were Gerard Mayo and this staff was lay an egg on Sunday. Like if you were just repeated the exact same game you played in Buffalo, even some of the other games where they were competitive but not really, like all you had to do was have put your best foot forward and show face in that game on Sunday. But laying an egg puts everything back on the table.
Do you think it was just simply outplayed, outcoached, or was there just something else that contributed to this performance?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that contributed to it, but yeah, I just think that in terms of effort, that's certainly there. In terms of talent, that's certainly there. And in terms of X's and O's, like that, they got out coached on really both sides of the ball, but especially defensively. I would say, they have no counterpunch defensively. Teams know they're going to play man-to-man coverage. They have their man beaters ready for them every single week. And if they play good man coverage, they have a decent defensive game. If they play bad man coverage, they give up 40 points. And that there's really no in between there. And on Sunday, they did not cover well, and that's what happens.
Yep.
No rush either. I mean,
No complimentary football.
It's just tough because I'm saying to Evan, usually even in the last couple seasons have been not great, but there's still been elements that are interesting to go back and look at, or why isn't the third down defense quite up? Like elements that are interesting, and there's just nothing interesting right now to break down or to go back, or they're bad across the board. I mean, every single important statistic that I look at or track, they're in the bottom 3 to 5 of the league in everything.
Yeah.
Red zone, third down, pressure rate, EPA, DVOA. I mean, across the board, both sides of the ball.
ERA. Wait, that's
ERA.
sport.
I'm sure they'd be down there too, though.
Yeah.
So all of that is absolutely true. The thing that was really strange to me about this game was usually they've had a handful of real stinkers the last 2 years. I mean, they won 4 games last year. They have 3 wins right now. But generally, when they get blasted like that on the scoreboard, it's because of a mess of turnovers.
Yeah.
You know, I think of that Saints game last year, the 34-0 game, the Cowboys game that had like the pick sixes.
Yep.
Yeah.
That wasn't this. This game in a lot of ways was more alarming because there was the one turnover there on the botched pitch there. I don't know if it was an aborted play or what exactly happened on that, but this wasn't a mess of turnovers. This was one team got the ball, drove it down the field and scored. Then they stopped you from moving the ball, got the ball back, and went down the field and scored 7 times in a row.
Yep.
You know, like this was just
It was
dominance.
You were just outmatched.
Yeah.
And it's, the 7 times in a row. Same thing happened against the Rams. The Rams, I think, scored 7 drives in a row. So that just, there's the adjustments, the lack of just coaching on the defensive side of the ball. They are just not a well-coached defense right now. And you look at a lot of the different things that you see in terms of, like, even fundamentals, tackling, taking on blocks, eye discipline. Like, these are just things that you've been coached at since, high school. That they just don't do well right now across the board on the defense. So I just keep on watching the film on offense, and I'm like, I mean, they just don't really have players. So, like, what do you expect?
And that's the thing. Like, after the game on our post-game show, I wasn't overly, like, depressed, disappointed, or surprised. This is who they are. We're not a good team. And when you play against a Chargers team, had a lot to play for, a really good coach, this is what could happen, and it did. And so I wasn't like, oh, I can't believe this happened. No. We got a lot of work to do in the offseason. In that game, just showed that
I guess
how
I was
far
just
away we are.
I was just a little surprised with how much the Chargers dominated because I didn't think the Chargers were, quote unquote, that good. If that had been Buffalo, I would have said, there's that much of a difference between the two. If they played Baltimore and got blasted like that, or Detroit, you could sort of understand it. I think the Chargers are good. I think everything you said about Harbaugh is absolutely true. I think he's a good coach, but they made the Chargers look like a Super Bowl contender in that game, and I don't think that's what that team is yet.
Yeah. I mean, that's a season high in points for them. They were
season high in a lot of categories:
Yeah.
first downs, yards, points.
Yeah, I mean, they came in 19th in the league in scoring, 15th in DVOA on offense. Like, they don't run away from teams like that normally.
And lately, their offense has been like 17, 17, 17. They had the 34 against the Broncos in the Thursday night game.
Yeah.
But also defensively, the Chargers' defense has been good most of the year, but it's been struggling lately. So that really stood out to me, too, that the Patriots couldn't move the ball at all against a defense that I think is good, but they made it look great.
Well, we talk about Harbaugh against a rookie coach.
Yeah, I mean, did you feel...
rookie quarterback.
And coach.
And coach.
But Harbaugh's an offensive coach.
I know, but he's a coach. He's a good coach.
He is.
Yeah.
He is.
Do you think that the Maye injury threw things off, though? Like, that's,
Maybe, but they went 3-0 in their first drive.
Yeah.
I didn't think
before anything happened.
I didn't think... I thought it threw him off his rhythm a little bit. I did. I mean, like, I'm not saying they're going to score 30 points if he doesn't get hurt, but
kind of rattled.
This was my worst game for him. I thought, didn't have the turnovers like he had in some of the other games, but just seeing the field, seeing blitzes, like understanding when blitzes were coming and things like that, where he was going with the football. He had a lot of reps in this game against the blitz that were like Caleb-esque, where he's just kind of running backwards, and I don't ever want to see that. That's taking 15-yard sacks on 4th and 2 is not typical of Drake Maye. So I thought that he was a little overwhelmed by my mentor a little bit in this game.
Okay. So do you play Maye this week?
You have takes.
Yeah.
Why don't you lead us off with your takes?
I say no. I say you play Joe Milton.
I'm very surprised.
For a lot of reasons. Yes, I want Maye to get every rep he can, but in this particular game, there is nothing to see with Drake Maye that we probably haven't seen. I don't think there's anything to gain. There's a lot to lose. Of course, the first pick in the draft is something you could lose, but getting him banged up is another thing. Plus, all season we've been hearing about how good a teammate Joe Milton's been in practice. You know, he's been on the scout team. He's really helped the team. Throw him a bone. Throw him a bone at the end of the season. Let him have a game.
Yeah.
You know, reward the guy for a good season of support, and give him this game. You know, so you benefit that way. And again, there's nothing to really benefit on the other side other than football players play football.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd be okay with starting Maye. I'd love to see Milton come in maybe near the end. So I guess I'm a little bit in the middle, but I don't know. I'd like to continue to see Drake develop. I'd like to see him make a couple plays and get in there and, you know, take some positive things from this game into the offseason rather than that Buffalo game being kind of the end.
Let's just say he has a good game. All right, well, it's all Bill's backup and all that. You know, like, I don't know, is there really that much to gain from having him play?
No, I mean, probably not
I'm
tangibly,
just throwing it out there.
tangibly, but at the same time, like, this is a team that has a long, long way to go, and he's got to play games. He's got to understand how to be an NFL quarterback, and there's going to be games like this. Like, I don't know. I mean, I can be probably
like
be persuaded. I'd like to see him play. I'd like to see him practice. I don't need to see him play the whole game. And I mean, you want to say what is it really to gain? I can't really push back too heavily on that. Other than just this team's got a long way to go, and I want to continue to see this kid play and develop and get meaningful reps rather than all right, that's it. He's going to shut down tomorrow. He's going to be the backup.
Well, I mean,
that's kind of it.
That's
for
what
the
I've been
season.
saying all season, starting from week 1. But now we've got to this point where you do have the first pick possibly on the line.
I don't.
Yeah.
Let's
I don't worry as much about that. And
Let's pull the plug.
I think Evan's probably with you, Fred. But it's more in terms of making sure you get him to the finish line. And in my mind, I am thinking, like, man, if you were to suffer like a torn ACL, that would be just the worst possible scenario. And all the stuff that Mike and I think, because I think Mike and I are on Maye side and you guys are probably on the other side. And I think the reason why Mike and I can probably be persuaded is because of the state of the game. Like, if they were playing just a regular team, if they were playing another team that was eliminated, if they were playing Cleveland, I would say Drake Maye plays. Just play this like a regular game. But you're not even going to see the other team. They're going to rest as many guys as they possibly can, right?
Yep.
I mean, they've already talked about Josh Allen's going to start only.
Just to keep the record going.
Just to keep his streak going.
Yeah.
So I don't even know how much you can get out of playing Maye in terms of evaluation because it's going to be kind of like a glorified preseason game.
Right.
So you guys can convince me that maybe sitting him is the right thing to do.
Yeah, if you want to treat it like a preseason game where he plays a half or whatever and you see how it goes and maybe if he has a couple great drives or what, I guess I'm not going to sit here and say, be afraid of playing him, but I guess I wouldn't go as far as some of the other people on the beat have gone with how much of a coaching malpractice it would be to play him on Sunday. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, I'm not saying that either.
No, but
I don't get that mentality. To be honest.
But I think there's a lot to lose and not a lot to gain. And the biggest thing to me that they have to lose is him getting hurt.
Yeah.
Like, I really don't care as much about the number 1 pick as I do about his health because this is a big offseason. It's the year 2 leap. Like, he needs to be training and he needs to be working on his craft and he needs to have a whole training camp and a whole preseason next summer and all that kind of stuff. Like, if he gets seriously injured in this meaningless game and then all of a sudden we're talking about him not coming back till halfway through next year off of a torn ACL or something like that, like, now forget about 2025 also. Like, now that season's gone too. So I just think that's the biggest thing to me is injury risk and weighing the risk reward of him playing in this game in that sense.
Yeah.
I like Paul's point about going against Bill's backups. Like, that to me is the major factor where it's hard to even if he went out there and lit it up,
There'd be
still
an
be a big
asterisk.
but
it's going to be like, well, yeah, he won that game. It's going to be like the Jets game.
And what
like,
if he loses that game?
I don't put any more stock in that either.
No, I know.
Because you easily could say, well, that's what they wanted. They didn't necessarily put their best foot forward because they wanted to maintain the draft status. So
there's just nothing to gain.
we just taped All Access, and one of the elements that Steve Burton asked Mike and I was like, is this kind of like just a no-win situation for Gerard Mayo?
Yeah.
Like, he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't.
Pretty much.
And he's it's a tricky needle to try to thread. Like, maybe you want to go out, play well, win the game, make sure that Drake Maye is healthy, and then somehow like the Giants and these other teams win too. So you keep the number 1 pick. You get Maye to play. He plays well. You feel a little bit better about yourself in a miserable year. He's healthy. Nothing happened.
And you still get the first pick.
And you still get the first pick. So, like, that's a hard sort of path to stay on.
Is the first pick that important?
I don't really think so. I think Evan feels the same. Like, I don't know. You guys can – I get it. It's more valuable to have the 1. And that way, if someone at like 3 or 4 feels like they need to get in front of the Giants, they need to go to you to do that. So I guess there's some value there.
So worst case, they get their 4th?
Yeah.
I think if they win and other teams lose, then
Like
they go to 4.
I'm talking about all the worst things happen.
Yeah.
The worst they can pick is 4.
That's how I understand it,
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the end-all, be-all to be picking number 1 overall in a draft like this. I'll say it, and if I'm wrong, like in April, I'm wrong, but this is not a quarterback draft. I keep on saying this, and everybody says, oh, well, the quarterbacks will get pumped up, and Shedeur Sanders, the marketing campaign will start for him with Dion, and he'll get pumped up to a number 1 overall pick, and maybe that happens, but you're not getting a king's ransom for the number 1
Well,
pick
that's the
this year.
thing. Like I know I've heard a lot of fans saying, no, you got to trade down. You got to trade down. Keep that first pick so that you get the most you can get in a trade down. But I think compared to other years, you may not get the offers you think you're going to get.
No, and Dan Brugler from The Athletic put
I was
this
just
out
looking
here,
at
too,
that up. Go ahead.
Because if you don't want to take my word for it, he's the best in the business when it comes to the draft. And he said that, teams view this quarterback class like Shedeur Sanders would be quarterback 7 in last year's class, like behind Bo Nix and J.J. McCarthy. And then he also said that he'd be shocked if they got a Bears-like package for the number 1 pick this year because of that. So if you're the Patriots, it doesn't make a difference if you pick your guy at 1 or your guy at 3. Like, I don't necessarily think so, but it's always nice to have the better pick, obviously.
Yeah. He had quotes from, obviously scouts, anonymous scouts, and they said that there are 2 quarterbacks. One guy said there are 2 quarterbacks that are first round, but they're late first round
so
value.
It's going to be Cam Ward and Shedeur, right?
Right,
Yeah.
but they're late first round value. And another guy said that they're not even that high on them. So if you take that at face value, and that's the way that most people look at the draft, I can't really envision a team at like 6 or 7 saying, I need to do anything I can to get in front of the Giants to prevent them from taking Shedeur Sanders so I can take him, if that's how they're thought of.
Do you think the whole Jets-Giants thing has any play in this? I mean, because it's kind of a rivalry. What they're fighting for is fan base in the same market, and both teams need a quarterback. Do you think that might come into play at all?
I mean, I hope so because, I think right now if you're sitting at 1, is there any other choice than Travis Hunter? I mean, and not to say that I'm totally that sucks. Like, he's a really good player, and I think he could help this team, but is there any other choice if you can't trade out of 1?
I would take Travis Hunter at 1.
But that's it,
that
right?
Would be
like, who else?
That's my other take.
Who else would be worthy of that?
If you were
Freddie's bringing takes today.
I like that. If you were absolutely stuck at 1.
Yeah, I'd
then-
take Travis Hunter.
Yeah, I don't love it.
Right?
But I guess you kind of have to.
I think he's the best player in the draft.
Yeah.
Best player in the draft.
Yeah.
Just take him. Figure it out.
No.
You get him in here and figure it out.
I don't think that he's it's not who I would want if I had the number 1 pick. Like it's a stinky year.
No, you want
to
a
be in
blue
this
chip.
position.
Yeah, it's like the year Eric
Generational
Fisher
player.
was like the number
Yeah.
1
Well,
pick.
that's my biggest fear of taking one of these tackles, number 1, just because that's your biggest need, is that he turns into just kind of a meh player like Eric Fisher was, and it's like, all right, well, what are you going to do? Like, at least if you take the swing on Travis Hunter, if it hits, it's going to be an absolute home run. He's going to be a generational player for you. I don't know if these tackles are going to be
So getting back to my question, do you think that the Jets-Giants thing could raise the stock of a quarterback, whether it's Ward or Sanders?
I think so. I mean,
It's
look
always a
at like Bo Nix
possibility.
last year. I mean, there were some surprises last year, guys going higher than. I mean, I just wouldn't rule it out. My question though was just, would it be easier if you're at like 3 or 4 to trade down and get some picks rather than 1? Like, what's easier to trade this year, 1 or 3? Or does it matter?
I don't know if it matters.
I think
But-
you're going to have the same value at 1 as you in other years you might have had at 3.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to lead to is, I know Paul's going to jump ugly on me here,
No, I was just watching
But-
the Beanpot
but
commercial. I was
but
thinking
fantasy,
back to better days for my
fantasy draft
Huskies.
trade.
Yeah.
If you're the Patriots and if you're the Jets want to jump over the Giants because they want to get a quarterback. This is the scenario. Would you, if you're the Jets, offer Garrett Wilson, who's disgruntled, and Quinnen Williams, and a third-round pick? You don't give up a first for the Patriots first. And if you're the Patriots, would you do that?
Where were the Jets?
6.
No, I wouldn't.
Or
do that.
7?
I wouldn't give
6
up
or
that
7?
much to move up 4, 5, 6 spots.
You're not giving up your first-round pick.
Yeah, but I'm giving up 2 of my best players.
Right, but
they're better than first-round
think about
picks,
this.
especially Wilson,
Now-
who's young.
I knew you were going to do that, so think about it, though.
Why are the Patriots doing this?
Hold on. So hold on now. From the Jets' perspective, you get your quarterback, you keep your first-round pick, so I can replace theoretically, I replace one of the guys I just gave up. Because I'm keeping my first-round pick.
No, not in this draft. You're not.
Why not?
Why not?
Because you're not replacing Quinnen Williams and Garrett Wilson with guys that people think aren't that good.
Well, I think Mason Graham and Ted McMillan are replacing them. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's on the same exact level.
Yeah,
but
I wouldn't. I mean, I just wouldn't do it.
Okay, so if
You
you're
wouldn't
the
do it
Jets,
as the Jets?
I wouldn't do
See,
it as
now
the Jets.
that's what I'm talking about.
For Shador Sanders? Are you kidding me?
But
You're not. The
they want
Patriots are
the
not going to have a
quarterback.
first-round pick. Why would the Patriots do that?
Well, then it's an extra silly trade if neither team would do
Of course it is.
Because I wouldn't even consider it if I were the Jets.
How would the Patriots?
But he wouldn't consider it if he was
What?
the Patriots.
You're not going to
Right,
make a
so it's-
first-round pick?
So it's not going to happen.
See, I would consider it.
Oh my goodness.
So if you would,
If I'm the Patriots, I would.
you would consider not picking in the first round this year?
Yes, because listen, and hear me out.
Well,
Hear me out.
I'll hear you
Hear
out.
me out.
I got two players a lot better than anybody I'm taking in the first
I'm
round.
getting 2 surefire first-round players.
That neither one play left tackle.
Okay, but I'm
Yeah.
getting listen to me.
I'm
getting
listening.
2.
You're not
I'm
listening,
getting
Evan.
2
Apparently
surefire first-round players, right?
Yeah.
I lose my first-round pick, but I pick up a third. So now I have a second and 3/3. 3/3, because remember we got a
Yeah,
third. from
thirds are
Judah.
just like there.
Okay, no,
we can
whatever.
keep talking about thirds like they're valuable.
Marte
Well, I
Mapu,
think
Caden
some
Wallace,
pretty
Chase
good players
Winovich.
have been picked in the third round. But I got
Some
I have,
really bad
I have
ones,
my
too.
second, and I have 3/3, and I have 2 new first-round players that I've added to my team.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not what?
He wouldn't do it.
I would not do that. If you're the Patriots, like right now, you need.
I need
first round
impact
pick.
players, and I've guaranteed to pick up at least 2.
I mean, I don't think Quentin Williams is the guy he
Plus,
used to be.
think about it.
anymore.
I don't know what Barmore's status is for next year. Keon White, maybe I'm jettisoning him. So I need interior linemen.
like-
So Quentin
would-
Williams, fills the boat there.
I like your ideas, Fred.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure that Shador Sanders is worth giving up your team.
I can't believe.
Well,
you
that's
looked
the
at Jets
thing.
side
I'm
of this trade
assuming.
that you're
I'm
worried
assuming
about.
that the Jets-Giants
Like it-
rivalry has upped the stock of Sanders.
Like I would have done this for Jaden Daniels last year or Drake Maye last year if I were the Jets. I would I would strongly consider doing
Yeah.
that. I just don't think these guys are worth doing that for. Thus, me not necessarily being in love with the number 1 overall pick.
Right.
I don't think there's going to be
Yeah.
the same amount
So,
of value there.
Obviously, if neither the Jets or Giants think highly of either of these quarterbacks, the whole thing is moot because it hinges on the Jets loving Sanders and believing that the Giants do too, and needing to get up over us again.
Right. And now I think you could convince yourself, like if you're sitting at 7 and Shador Sanders falls to 7, like, I can take a wide receiver, but I don't have anybody to throw to more. I could take an offensive lineman. I mean, I just took an offensive lineman last year, and he really panned out. He's been a good player. You know what? I'm going to take Sanders.
I didn't
I'll
give
talk
up anything to get him.
I'll talk myself into
Yeah,
it.
sure,
Like
that's-
that makes
yeah.
sense to me, but
Yeah.
like trading up and losing assets for a guy that I'm not sure about doesn't make a lot of sense. Someone will probably be interested in doing it. You guys are right. Someone will convince themselves. The Dion hype train will get Shador Sanders, on everybody's mind.
I like the creativity trying to get
I
Garrett
like the
Wilson, though. Like
creativity there,
those,
too.
I mean, that's I think kind of some of the moves they got to think about.
Plus,
outside
I'm
the
worried
box
about
a little.
Barmore.
Absolutely.
I'm worried about the interior of that
I
line.
think-
going
Even
into
with
next year.
Barmore,
All of a
that's
sudden,
that's an enormous need.
I know,
with
Fred,
or without
I mean,
Barmore.
all of a
yes.
sudden, interior line
the
is
whole
now
front,
a big need.
the whole front seven
Right.
is
DT
in need of
one,
an
like
overhaul.
I would make that an absolute priority.
DT1.
The defensive tackle.
You know-
I think they need
you
edge
know?
rushers.
They need that too. But
I
I'd
think
say
defensive like
you
I'll
have-
take it or leave defensive tackle.
I think you need a guy. I think you need a guy. I'd go get one in free agency. I mean,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, that's fine.
I mean, but I would say edge absolutely. But who do you have? You got Devon Gottschall. You have one guy who can play interior at an NFL level right now. You know, I think that's.
I think you can sign those types of guys though in free agency. And
I don't
bring
like
in-
that line of thinking, Evan. I want an impact guy. I want somebody good.
But like,
well, but how
but,
did you get Godshaw?
Well, that's not an impact guy.
but like,
That's a guy who plays the defensive line is at an NFL
I don't
level,
know.
sure,
the
but he's
best
not an
coach
impact guy.
in the NFL said
Yeah,
that
I know.
he's the best.
and you mocked him
interior
for it,
lineman
and I
ever.
did too.
I think edge is to me would be where you get your impact guy. Like I think that's a much more important spot for
Can
them.
make an argument Quali played better than Gottschall this year. Like
I wouldn't make that argument.
I wouldn't either, but people have.
Yeah. I mean, they're
Your ilk, your analytics guys.
No, I don't take credit for any of those.
No,
people
I know
that
you
you're
always
talking
cut
about.
ties when you don't agree with them, which I like. That's my
If you're
my
talking,
style.
if you're talking
That's my
PFF
style.
grades, you've lost me. That doesn't count.
I don't know. I don't know that PFF would
But
be one of those.
I don't think you're 30th in the league in pressure rate because of defensive tackle play. Maybe
No.
the run defense is the defensive tackle play, but that's because you got nobody coming off the edge. Like you got to truly invest in replacing Judon, with a real edge rusher and a finisher.
See the SPFW that we got today that wanted to trade with the Giants?
Oh no.
Switch spots with the Giants from 2 to 1 and get Malik Neighbors.
These people just
Okay.
I can't
Right.
do this.
So we're going to
for
bring in a
the next
quarterback
5
and
months.
give away our best receiver. Okay.
I'm interested in that.
The Raiders one is Brock Bowers. Like you're not getting Malik Neighbors, you're
Right.
not getting Brock Bowers. Like
Why not try to think about Michael Mayer? Not like Brock Bowers isn't going anywhere,
Right.
but maybe they don't think that
Right.
they need both of them. If I were the Raiders, I would build my offense around those two guys, but that's me.
But it may be, best case scenario from the Raiders, I think, is maybe, Max Crosby has had enough of that organization. And
It's
and
the
he-
Wiggy plan.
Yeah, and he wants out. Like that's the best case scenario. But Fred, you got to make a first round pick. You can't not make a first round pick. I mean, that's how bad teams stay bad, is when you don't make
Yeah,
first
but
round
you're
picks.
bringing in 2 first-round
Yeah,
players.
but you're bringing in, you're not though. You're bringing in 2 guys that are 27 years old, 25, 26 years old.
That's not old.
That are
Yeah,
going to
I don't
need
think Wilson's that old.
that are gonna
Wilson's
need-
only 3 years in the league.
Yeah, he's 25. And you're going to need to pay him $30 million a year.
So he was an old guy coming out of college?
No, but
22.
He's third year. in
That's
his
old
league.
nowadays.
Well, yeah, if you don't stay.
But the point is that
like T. Higgins is only 25.
yeah.
you're talking about guys that are paid people. Like you're talking about contracts that are already hitting the top of the market right now. Like if you want to rebuild this team correctly, like you have to build through the draft, and then to not make a first round pick like that, I don't know how you're not gonna build through the draft that way. So like I get what you're saying. Like it'd be great if they could get a trade down scenario like the Bears did, where you throw in like a DJ Moore.
But I
type
still
player.
have 4 picks in the top 3 rounds.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything for me. Like those picks, I more every single year. More, I find it to be an absolute crap.
I don't know, man. I'm bringing in a top wide receiver and a top interior lineman, and then like I said, I have 4 more picks.
But those picks don't mean anything. Like the third round picks,
I could package up 3 and move into 2 and have 2 2s or whatever.
I guess. I mean, it's not that trade's not going to happen. No offense. Like that, but like
I don't see the Jets wanting to trade Garrett Wilson to the Patriots.
Well, I get he's disgruntled, right?
Yes. So no, I think there's a chance that he could get traded.
Yeah.
But I just can't see the Jets trading him to the Patriots.
Well, I know. Crazier things have happened.
No, I didn't
Yeah.
say it's impossible.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
I'm just I'm relying on this Jets Giants thing and both of them wanting Sanders. That's the only way it would happen.
No, I like where your head's at in terms of trying to get a veteran player as part of the package. I just don't think that you can make that trade without getting a first round pick back.
And I also think a trade in particular is very important in this offseason. I think they need to find a way to acquire someone's disgruntled player
Yeah.
like that. The way a lot of other teams have done it in the last 5 years.
Especially
you know,
'cause you're not
DK
a
Metcalf,
draw.
somebody
Yeah.
that could be available.
Yeah.
And
gotta-
like Max Crosby, you brought up.
Yeah, Max
like,
Crosby, DK Metcalf. Like you gotta, if you're not gonna win in free agency because you're not a draw right now, then you gotta kind of.
How
force
old is
somebody.
Crosby?
27.
Oh, he's young.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why do I think he's like 30? I don't know. I thought he
kind of
was
looks
older.
it.
Yeah.
Seems like he's been around for a while, I guess.
Yeah.
He's a good player.
He is a good player. Yep. All right, so those are some things that we're throwing out.
I like
Anything
your. I
else?
like your.
Outside the box.
I like your trade scenario.
Man.
I mean, I don't
Guys
necessarily
don't
think
care
you,
about draft picks, huh?
Yeah.
me.
I know you don't.
Not a ton. Like I mean, I do care.
Good luck
but
building the offensive line.
I just want to get good. I want to get good as quickly as possible, and in that way, you're bringing in two surefire first round value guys.
I just don't think that's how you get good. But I think it's just a philosophical thing. It's
Yep.
different.
Yep.
You know, like I think the teams that have gotten good quickly are teams that draft well. And
well, they have to draft well. I don't think that people. I
Yeah.
don't think Fred's suggesting they
No,
should just
but
punt on the
how
draft.
how are you going to draft well?
Well, why can't you get a
Why
le-
can't
why
you
can't you get a
finally get
left
a good
tackle in the
second-round
second
pick?
round? You're at the top of the second round. Why can't you hit on a lineman there?
Because it doesn't happen. Like
Sure it does.
What are you
It-
talking about?
What one
You think
every 10?
every player that
One in
plays in
every
this league
10?
came out of the first round?
No, but 1 in every 10 tackles that hits, like, good luck. Like, go throw a dart. Like, I just, this past year we were
Okay,
all
so
hyping up
in your
Kingsley
view,
Sumatia and Patrick Paul and all
I
these
know,
guys.
but
They don't play.
You say you got to build through the draft. We have one first round pick.
Yeah, and it's
so
the number
it's
one
going to take
overall
us
pick.
5 years to get to where we want to be.
But if you hit on this pick, or if you trade down and you get a haul for this pick, like these are.
We just talked about you're
and
not
yes,
getting a haul this year.
and you're also talking about it's going to take multiple years.
I'm not
Right.
even sure you're going to be able to get a future
those-
first
but I'm
round
saying
pick.
you can quicken the process a little bit.
Like this draft, the way that people are talking again, I don't know these things, so I go to the Dane Bruglers of the world who do know this stuff.
right.
A lot of trade scenarios I've seen, you're not even able to get a future first round pick.
yeah.
You're trading down 4 spots to get a 2 and a 3 this year and a 2 next year and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
Evan doesn't want that because you
I-
have to get the first
to
round
me-
picks because everything else is a
To
dart.
me, if you
Like-
if you want to build through the draft, you better be good in the second and third round. You better
Yeah,
pick
absolutely.
players
But I'm
that are
not
good.
banking on hitting on a tackle in the second or third round. We've been doing that for years, and it doesn't work.
I'm telling you, whoever
Like-
you pick, you
How many
need-
tackles have they taken in the second round
Well,
over
they
the
took
years?
they took a third round tackle last year.
They took a third
Yannick
r-
Kajus in the third round a couple years
Those
ago
are
in 19.
third round guys.
Okay,
when was
but
the last
like-
second round?
I
Matt
don't-
Light, Sebastian Vollmer, those guys worked out.
Okay, they also had Dante Scarnecchia coaching them on the offensive line.
Okay, well, that's a whole different subject.
Like
Like,
that's all part of
Coaching
it
is
too.
another
They
subject,
also
and it's a
had-
good
They
subject.
also
but
had
that's
Tom
part of
Brady
it too.
playing quarterback.
Right.
So
Like,
Elliot Wolf has said many times we want to be a draft and develop team,
Right.
and
trade
everybody
all the picks.
only focuses on the draft part.
Right. What happens when they get here?
Because I refuse to believe that all of these guys came into the league without the requisite talent.
Right.
Jalen Polk in the summer looked like he had NFL ability. Why from July to December does he look like he doesn't belong in the league?
Yep.
Is that all his fault?
Right.
I mean, I put the majority of it on him because the player's ultimately
he's the most
responsible.
hated. Did you see that post?
Please.
Like,
But I'm using it as an example.
Jalen, I just have
Evan's
a word of
right.
advice. People need to care before they hate you, and right now you're not on that level.
Oh,
You're not there yet.
It's a tough week
nasty-
with him and Lab McConkey. He's got
Nasty
he must
Fred
have heard
is the
some of
best
that
Fred.
stuff.
No, it's just like, what are we doing here?
no, but Evan's right about the lack of structure. Like Dante was able to take these guys and make them, probably better players than they were, and they're not getting that now. So I recognize
As
that.
far as we know.
Well, they're not getting better. I mean,
Yeah,
they just
right.
picked 8 guys in the draft,
Yeah.
and one of them
Well,
looks like he can
that's
play.
another subject I want to get into is our evaluation of these coaches. What are we basing it on? And we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to like get too fired up about this whole thing. I just
No, I like this.
To the opposite. That's what this is for.
I apologize.
No. That's what this is for.
As someone that puts a lot into the draft every single year, you fall in love with
Reed
guys.
and someone who puts in more than you guys.
No. I don't
I'm
even
only
mean it to
kidding.
that. But like, I fall in love with guys in the second. Like, I really thought Kingsley Suamataia was going to be a good NFL tackle, and maybe he still will be.
I was going to say he played like 3 games.
Okay, but the Chiefs are literally putting Joe Tooney.
He's not ready.
at
Clearly
left
not
tackle
ready.
To avoid playing him.
Right. And,
Right.
And Patrick Paul the other day was fine until they started leaving him on an island with Myles Garrett.
Right. And like,
Which, I'm sorry, that's
Yeah.
bad coaching.
Yeah. Right.
But I really am concerned about, you can find receivers, you can find pass rushers, you can find those guys in the veteran market. Those guys move. Like the receivers get traded every offseason.
Receivers, you can definitely.
Right.
They're moving a lot because
So-
they're divas and they're always disgruntled.
Right.
We need one to get gruntled.
Right. So you look at this thing and you're like, okay, you can make that receiver trade. You can sign a T. Higgins. You can trade for a DK Metcalf. Like, where is the offensive line help going to come from? And if you're continuing to just bank on 3rd and 4th round picks to hit on the offensive line, like, we're going to be here for a while.
You keep pushing it back around. I want to take it at the top of the second round, which
Okay.
is like a first rounder.
But like this year, top of the second round, like, I'll just give you some names. Like Josh Connerly from Oregon, he could play himself into the first round in the playoff, right? But he's a talented guy that most project at the top of the second round right now. But if he has 2-3 really good games in the playoff, then he's going to be a first round pick. Josh Simmons from Ohio State, really talented guy, but he's coming off a torn ACL right now in college.
I'm going to, this is a little devil's advocate here. I'm going to try to help Fred. Not necessarily saying I think this is realistic, but okay, so Fred's trade scenario where he's acquiring extra seconds and 3rd round picks, if your thing happens and you identify a guy, the Oregon kid, the Ohio State kid's the one coming off injury, right?
Yeah, ACL, yeah.
So one of those guys, let's say he's suddenly moving from the high 30s, or the low 30s in this case, where the Patriots are going to be taking 33.
Yeah.
And he's moving into the 20s.
Right.
Well, now you have all these extra picks that Fred's acquiring.
Yeah.
You go up and get them.
He acquired 1 extra pick.
Didn't you acquire like a second and a third?
Third,
just
I
a
think.
third. But
Third.
now I have 4 picks. I have 3 thirds.
What happened to
now.
our extra second?
I didn't say an extra.
In my mind, we had an extra
But
second. That just blew up
throw
on
that
me.
in. I could throw that in.
You can throw that in.
Throw that
It blew
in.
up on
But
me.
I can make the Jets give me that.
I would much rather just go that route on your own without trading for the veteran players. Like, if you are draft, let's say you don't get your tackle or you don't get your receiver at the top of the first round because you go one or the other. Like, I would love to see them trade back into the end of the first round and get the guy.
But
then.
you could move up from 33, add in 2 of the thirds to move to 25.
Right.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe not even that much. Maybe
Yeah.
you could get away with less than that.
Yeah.
You could do it.
So this
There's
way,
a way.
this this.
Well, now then I can make a first round pick and I'd feel a little bit better.
Yeah, and you can take a tackle, which would make you feel even better.
I'm still
But
not feeling
I'll
great.
go
but
back to my other point that I made. I agree, Evan. Good teams build through the draft,
Yes. I mean, I don't
know,
think anybody would argue with
but
that.
trade all
not
the
just
picks.
through the first
We don't
round.
want to trade all the picks.
Not just through the
You're
first
getting the best
round
pick.
is my point. You need to be good in the 2nd and 3rd round too, and every once in a while get lucky further down.
Like the Rams traded all the picks.
Right.
No one is advocating doing
But
that.
teams that do that, to me, that
Win
trade
Super
all
Bowls.
the picks, no, they already have the roster
Correct.
around it, right? They don't need the pillar players. They have the pillar players, the
Right.
Aaron Donalds, the Matthew Staffords, and now they're trading their first round pick for Jalen Ramsey to be the cherry on top of the sundae.
Sure. Right.
The Patriots are now trading their first round pick for the cherries on top before they build the foundation. So like that's
Yeah.
it,
I totally
it's
get it. And that's
backwards,
what, but I
right?
don't think Fred's advocating trading all the picks. He wants to trade
Just
one
one
pick
pick.
to acquire 2 guys that
The
are better
pick.
than that pick.
Yeah.
Well, just stay on the Rams example, though. I mean, once they did start drafting again, they're drafting well, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They're adding guys who are coming in and playing, and it's not what's happening.
And
here.
the other thing about the Rams is they recognize when other teams don't draft well.
That's right.
And they laugh about it
at
on
them
TV.
because they're drunk, mean people.
Didn't know we brought
Drunk,
that up
mean
here
people.
anymore.
Laugh at us.
All right,
was
let's
bad.
let's get you involved, our listeners and our viewers. 855-PATS-500 is the TPX hotline. If I can get this mouse to work. What's going on with the mouse?
Coyle just missed an empty net.
Huh?
Yeah, that happens.
Is the mouse working? Oh, jeez.
Oh, no.
Oh, jeez.
What are you gonna?
Gotta turn it on.
No. Why isn't this mouse
optical.
working?
Well,
Oh.
you did drop it.
Do you remember?
I know, I
batteries?
did.
You lose focus in this game.
Yeah.
What is that?
Oh. It's good TV.
Good.
I got it. It just popped in.
There
All
we
right.
go.
Let's go first to Joe in New Hampshire. What's up, Joe?
Hey guys, thanks for taking my call. I know the focus for most of the beginning was on the draft, which obviously makes sense with the first overall pick on the line this week. But I just want to say, after last week's game, I think they need to blow it up, get new front office, new coaching, and I might be in the minority here. I don't want them to hire Mike Vrabel. I want them to completely cut ties with people to the dynasty. The only exception to that I'd make is Brian Daboll if he gets fired from the Giants. I just kind of want to hear your thoughts on that.
So let me ask you a question. You said after last game, I decided that. You must have been really close leading into the game, though, right? It wasn't just last game.
Oh, no, it wasn't just last game. I was close going into it, but I just think putting that type of performance up in front of the home base, and I just think at this point there's no coming back from it.
Yeah. Was there anything they could have done in the last game that would have changed your mind and say, oh, let's run it back?
Be competitive. Not like
Okay.
I knew this year was going to be rough, like record-wise, talent-wise. I knew it was going to be rough, but they're not even competitive at this point.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Joe. Appreciate the call. You know what? I hear what he's saying. Like
A lot of fans agree with him.
If you're going to blow it up,
to let you know,
if you're going to blow it up, I think bringing in people whose success wasn't tied to Tom Brady makes a lot of sense.
Well, Vrabel's wasn't.
I didn't say it was.
Oh.
I'm just saying, bringing in people whose success wasn't tied to Tom Brady. Like a lot of people talk about Josh McDaniels as OC. Like maybe we should look at people who we can say, yeah, it wasn't because of Tom.
Yeah, it's just hard because you assume that their first place they look is with some degree of familiarity and people that they've worked with before. And I've heard plenty of people, if they did make a change, that this time they want to see a fully robust interview process where a number of candidates are considered. But I just think the general vibe from everybody is like something has to change. You can't have this bad of a season and sell it as it's going to be better next year. Let's just run it back. Like something's going to have to change this offseason.
Yeah. Sean's in Virginia. What's up, Sean?
Hello, guys. How you guys doing?
Hey, Sean.
Good. Turn that up, Matt, a little bit.
For me, I'm in a total. I'm kind of like an outlier when it comes to this because I think that the Patriots could get close to a ransom when it comes to that pick because there's a premium at the position, and there's too many teams within that slot that needs a quarterback. And if you have to take the time and think about it, I'm pretty sure a lot of people that's within this organization or with other teams, they're on the brink of possibly losing their job, whatever. So they might have one more chance. So they might need to go after this quarterback, and there's only two of them. So if I can go ahead and accumulate these picks or whatever, I could possibly go ahead and get to that spot I need to get to where I'm around like 5 or 6 or whatever, and then I'll use one of those picks that I may accumulate like another second-round pick or whatever, or another third, and I would trade that to try to get DK Metcalf. But for that first pick, I'll probably take C-Mac if I can. If I don't, I'll probably go after an edge rusher or perhaps the deep tackle from Michigan.
Okay.
That's my take on it.
All right. Thanks, Sean.
I would just say that I don't think there are two quarterbacks based on the way that people are talking. People are talking themselves into two quarterbacks. This is very similar to me to 2022.
Yep.
And everybody said, this isn't really a quarterback draft, and they were right. First one got taken at like 20. So I think there's a chance that these teams will not talk themselves into one of these two guys, and they'll just either decide the guy's good enough to take at my original pick, or he's not, and I'll just pick the best player on the board and figure it out. And I think that if you look, there's something that I think that is starting to happen a little bit more often with mixed results, but there's enough teams now that are doing it just saying, I don't love Shedeur Sanders, so instead of doing that, I'm going to go to Sam Darnold.
Right.
And I'm going to wait to the year that I'm in the draft and I can get a quarterback that I like. He worked. Your boy Mayfield worked. Now, Atlanta did it with Kirk Cousins. It didn't work. Now they were able to
but Kirk Cousins has worked
both
for other teams in the past. It just didn't work this year.
Right. I mean, Kirk Cousins has been a good
Minnesota.
player. It looks
Yeah.
like the Achilles
Yeah, but
was something that he
he's been
couldn't come back from.
He's been a guy that's moved around and had success.
Yeah, but that was like early in his
Yeah,
career.
yeah.
He left Washington and went to Minnesota. This is a little bit different. I think that you could sort of talk yourself into one of these. I'll call them bridge guys. Geno Smith. Seattle has been relevant with Geno Smith.
Yep.
If I were the Giants, I wouldn't even think about taking Shedeur Sanders at number 2. I would think
You'd get the bridge.
I would. This is going to sound really silly. There's no chance. I would just assume run it back with Daniel Jones, then talk myself into one of these guys that some AFC scouts don't even think are first-round talents.
No.
At the number 2 overall pick. Again, if I'm like at number 12,
Could everybody
I'm
be
looking
wrong
at like
about Sanders?
sure.
I couldn't agree with Paul more though about the Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith. I would much rather do that if I was the Giants, especially if Dable's still there.
Right. You can't do it with Daniel Jones. I get that.
Yeah.
That's just kind of a point. But
Drew Lock.
yeah.
Yeah, I would just I would much rather do that route this year. Look, I know he's gonna have to get paid, but like Brock Purdy, I'm not 100% sure is gonna be there long term with San Francisco. JJ McCarthy and Sam Darnold, like one of those guys isn't gonna be there in Minnesota long term. So you have an option like JJ McCarthy is better than both these quarterbacks in the draft as a prospect. So like there's so many options I feel like in this quarterback market that isn't in the draft.
What is the knock on Shedeur Sanders?
He's just I would say that he has a lot of the traits that teams are looking for. They're just not, if Drake May was at a 10, his are at a 7. He's got requisite arm strength. I think he has a little bit of that playmaking, off script type of ability, but it's just more, it's more watered down. It's not quite as impressive as some of the guys that came out last year.
Yeah, I haven't watched a ton of them, so I'm not necessarily telling
Has
you
he
this
done
is my
more with a lesser
evaluation.
team?
I wouldn't say that.
No?
I don't think he's done much at all. I mean,
They got
don't
rocked by BYU.
They don't really win all that much.
Yeah.
They beat the teams that they quote unquote should beat. I think he runs around a lot, like backwards. I don't think he has great pocket presence, and from what little I've seen, points a lot of fingers.
Yeah.
He likes to call out his offensive line a lot. Kind of reminds me of Jake Cutler at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
talking
part
about all the
doesn't
stuff that he
bother me
didn't
too
have.
much,
Yeah.
but he, I would say that when you watch him on film, like he's just his traits are just not high end. I think that he's got
How big is he?
ability, but I don't,
Because he seems small to me, but
Yeah,
maybe he's not as small as he looks.
I don't think
on the
he's
field.
he's not Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, but I don't think that's going to be a big conversation like it was with like Bryce Young, for example.
Like
He's
Cam
bigger than
Ward's
that.
small too. I heard someone compared Cam Ward sort of size and style to Kyler Murray. I don't think he's that good. I don't think he's as good as Kyler Murray was in college, but he's a smaller guy, athlete, was really productive at
Picked a
Miami
good
this
year
year.
to have the first
I
round.
know,
Oh,
man.
absolutely, Fred. If
Right?
there's a silver lining, you were in position to make the quarterback in a year that there was quarterbacks that were worth taking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the silver lining, and
Right.
you got one that looks
You
good.
think Dion's a consideration too with drafting Shedeur Sanders? That you're gonna have a little bit of a.
Does he come with him?
No, I
A
mean,
little
No,
LeVar
but like
Ball
the
situation.
factor,
dad
Yeah.
talking.
Yeah.
How did Shedeur do last week? I mean,
The-
he's got a platform.
the distraction.
Just
Yeah.
part of it.
I think Shedeur Sanders could be a starting quarterback in this league. I just don't think he's going to be an elite starting quarterback. So that's probably a mid to late round, first round pick if you're thinking that's what he can be.
All right. Let's go to Eldred in North Carolina. What's up, Eldred?
Big E.
Eldred.
New Year's, fellas. How y'all doing?
Here he is.
Matt, turn it up a
Can
little.
you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. Happy New Year's to y'all.
Same to you.
But, I saw that little draft thing where the Raiders want Shedeur Sanders, and that's from NFL Network thing, I think. And they were giving out a first, a second, the following first, and Crosby.
What?
Get to that number
Who
one
said
spot.
that? NFL Network?
Hey, look at NFL. News break on that. I think NFL did come from there, but it's on there though. It's on the news break.
So a
That
first-
the Raiders would trade Crosby, a first, a second, and the 226 first.
Wow, I'd do that in a heartbeat.
First,
No
to get
chance.
Sanders. To get Sanders.
I do that so fast.
I mean, that's
You
a
know what, Paul?
trade that you.
I'm going to find it, and I'm going to shoot it to your I am account.
Yeah.
Show it to you.
Oh, no, I didn't say that you didn't see someone propose it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I don't see a team doing that. I saw 2 trade proposals that didn't even involve first-round picks. Other than the swap of picks,
No.
which people mistakenly
So-
all the time count as an extra first-round pick.
So what if what Eldridge is saying, what the Raiders are factoring in is we want Deion Sanders to be our head coach. And so by doing this, we're getting our head coach as well. And that's upping the ante.
That'd be great.
What if that's
I would
part of
love
the
it.
thanks
I mean,
thanks Eldridge.
That's the little bit of luck that the Patriots need this year, having this pick.
Does that sound like a Tom Brady move to you?
No. Not
Yeah,
at
but
all.
how much say does Brady have, do you think?
I think he'll have a lot.
You think he'll have a lot?
Yeah.
I think
Jeez.
I'd like probably make a trade down, even if it's not for a king's ransom. Like
Yeah.
even if it's not for a huge package like we've seen in years past.
Sure.
I think I'd probably
What's
do
your
it
minimum?
anyway. I mean, I would like a 2025 or 2026, I should say, first round pick.
How about a
So-
second and a third this year and a future 2?
I'd
'Cause
probably,
that's what I heard this morning on one of
And
the
how far
proposals.
you're going from 1 to 8?
I think it was like 6.
I'd still do it.
I'd probably
That's
do
the
that.
Jets.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might have been the one
That's
I heard.
the Jets.
Because
And
there's
now I
no-
forget. I want to credit whoever was talking about it, but I forget.
if there was a Myles Garrett in this draft that you were giving away with the first overall pick, if there was someone of that ilk that's this unreal future Hall of Fame level prospect, then I wouldn't do it. But in this draft, I don't really think there's a huge difference between who you're going to be picking at 1 versus who you're going to be picking 6, 7, 8. So whatever you can get for the pick, I'd probably do it.
All right, my food's here, so let's take a break. When we come back, more calls and emails here on Patriots Unfiltered.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
With FedEx One Rate, you can ship to your student for a simple, predictable flat rate. Send a box full of home-baked treats that say, "Your father and I miss you." Or send a box full of instant noodles that says, "Your father and I would like you to stop asking us for money." Either way, one rate fits all. FedEx One Rate. 2-day shipping, one flat rate. Starting at $14.50. Visit FedEx.com/OneRate for details. Exclusions apply.
Well, let me just start. Sorry. So, had an opportunity to go back and watch the film. It was full staff, and just like I said after the game, there wasn't much positive to take out of the game. I guess if you want to say, one thing positive, it was good to see Cole Strange out there, and I would say he played pretty well. He graded out pretty well in the game, and for a guy who hasn't played football in a year to go in there and play center, definitely was encouraging. So, for me, look, today we have the players in. We have our meetings and stuff, and really just push forward to the last week of the season. Just got to be able to stay the course through all of the negativity. And look, again, as I've said, winning cures all, and we just need to win football games.
We'll open up for questions. We'll start with Ben Volan.
Hey, good morning, Gerard. I know obviously you want to go out this year with a win, but any thoughts to not playing Drake Maye this week, given the injury risk and given his style of play and everything?
I would say right now, like everything is, in consideration, and we'll see how the week goes.
Next question, Chris Price, followed by Chris Mason.
Hey, Gerard, how much, if at all, does the Bills situation, the fact that they're locked into the number 2 spot, they might sit some starters, they might have some guys play a quarter, whatever the case may be, how much of it all does that change your thinking when it comes to game play and personnel in the rest of the situation?
Yeah, my expectation is, if the guys are healthy, then they're expected to be ready to go out there and play. And again, we'll have to see how the week goes. But I understand the question. I just, the guys are working hard, and we need to play football.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Next question, Chris Mason, followed by Chris Ryan.
Hey, Gerard. After the game, Daniel Aquale said that it feels like a lot of guys start giving up when things get hard. I'm just wondering if you saw any of that on the film in the second half when you reviewed it.
Look, we saw guys still flying around. Guys were still flying around, giving good effort, and it was just more about just execution as a whole. So I didn't see that.
Chris Ryan, followed by Doug Kyde.
Hey, Gerard. Hope all is well with you. Just wanted to ask you a little about your process when it comes to Drake in that game where he gets medically cleared. Although he was showing signs that he said he got his bell rung, he was showing signs of maybe he had issues. Do you just completely trust in the medical staff in that instance, or do you kind of take a step back and think about everything? How do you evaluate during that type of a situation?
Yeah, as soon as they go into the tent, I just wait to hear back from the medical professionals and the independent evaluator. If they say it's fine, then it's fine.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mike Reese, followed by Doug Kyde.
Hey, Gerard, a big picture question. I'm just curious, what do you feel are the most impactful things that you've accomplished in your first year as head coach?
I would just say, being able to weather the storm. And it seems like we've been in the storm for a long time. And I think the players, as a whole, I would say they've come into work every day during a difficult season. I think that's been a huge piece of the puzzle, and hopefully we can keep that going forward. We had 8 one-score games this year, and we just got to, honestly, we have to win those games, and that's what the NFL is, and that's going to be the goal going forward.
Doug Kyde, followed by Andrew Callahan.
Good morning, Gerard. We didn't see a captain's patch on Jacoby Brissett's jersey. Is there any update to his captaincy?
No. He's still a captain.
Oh, okay, just left off the jersey then?
Yeah. Yes.
Thanks.
Andrew Callahan, followed by Phil Perry.
Hey, good morning, Gerard. Is Drake Maye in concussion protocol?
No, he's not. No.
Thank you.
Phil Perry, followed by Ian Steele.
Let me say this. As far as my understanding, he is not in the protocol.
When would you learn that if he is?
It'll be today.
Thank you.
Phil Perry, followed by Ian Steele.
Hey, Gerard, could you describe how you and Alex have communicated this year? How would you characterize your level of communication and how well it's gone, in your opinion?
Yeah. Look, we're in constant communication. We speak every single day. We're in meetings every single day together. And it's been good. Obviously, again, with our record, it's easy to say, well, maybe this or maybe that, but our communication has been great.
Ian Steele, followed by Chris Chris Price.
Morning, Gerard.
Morning.
Just as of right now, you guys are in line for the #1 overall pick next year. How does that, if at all, affect your game plan going into this week?
100% focus on beating the Buffalo Bills. That's what we have to do.
Chris Price, followed by Chris Ryan.
Gerard, Keon White was very outspoken toward the end of the week and then after the game as well. I know you said on the pregame show you had a chance to speak with him. You guys are okay. I don't know if you've had a chance to kind of catch up with him since his comments after the game and how those conversations have gone.
Yeah, I did. We spoke this morning. I want to keep those conversations private, but we're on the same page.
Thanks.
Chris Ryan, followed by Doug Kyde.
Hey, Gerard, you mentioned earlier, 8 one-score games throughout the course of this year, and you had high expectations for establishing the brand of football you wanted to establish coming into this season. I'm just kind of curious now, as we're at the last game. Do you feel that this has been, more challenging than you anticipated, and how would you kind of evaluate where things have gone compared to your expectations going into the season, how you've grown as a coach throughout it?
No, I appreciate the question. Look, I knew this was going to be a challenging season, first year head coach. Obviously the expectations here are always high. Unfortunately, we just haven't been able to meet, those expectations. Now, in saying that, I think the biggest problem with us as a team starts with me is just being consistent. It's about consistency. It's about consistency on the field. It's about consistency inside the building, and we just got to continue to work on that.
Doug Kyde, followed by Mike Reese.
Hey, Gerard, I know you said after the game that it was a coach's decision to start Ramondre Stevenson over Antonio Gibson. Can you give us a little bit more intel into what exactly happened there?
No, there's really no intel. I mean, I'm just going to stick with coach's decision on that.
Thanks.
Mike Reese, followed by Mike Giardi.
Brad, up to this point, Joe Milton has been the third quarterback in every game. How much motivation is there internally to maybe bump him up to the game day roster this week and just to see more of what you have in an actual game?
It's absolutely a possibility. But like I said earlier, all things are still under consideration.
And we'll take two final questions, Mike Giardi and Mark Daniels.
Morning, Gerard.
Morning, Mike.
I'm curious, after seeing the film, the pitch to Pop, Ramondre, sort of what happened there. I know some guys talked about there being some heavy pressure on that side. Is that something maybe Drake should have checked out of the play?
Look, we had a good player coming off the edge, and again, it just goes down to execution. We've run that play many times in practice and just couldn't get it done in the game.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Last question, Mark Daniels.
Hey, Gerard, good morning. With this one game left, have you been given assurance by ownership that you'll return next season?
I'm always in constant communication with ownership and feel like we're still on the same page.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
And now, great moments in history.
I ended up turning around and reselling the ticket on Ticketmaster and actually made more on one ticket than I paid for the two.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Oh.
So I get to the game, and I sit down, and there's this really nice little old lady, and she's like, "Oh, how did you get tickets?" And I'm like, "Oh, Ticketmaster." She's like, "Yeah, I just bought mine. My husband, who's a big Patriots fan, he passed away, and so I felt like I needed to be here for it."
Oh
and
my
I'm just
God.
feeling worse and worse that I took
wasn't
this
it?
money, and then it was so bad she couldn't even drive to the game. She had to leave early to catch the train to get back, so she had to leave, and I felt
You're a
so
horrible person,
terrible.
Deuce.
I'm sitting next to her, I'm
You're
like,
such a bad
I don't know,
person. That's unbelievable.
I just bought it on Ticketmaster.
For $8 million.
I know.
That's another great moment from
All right, back here on Patriots Unfiltered, 855-PATS-500 is the TPX hotline. Podcasts at patriots.com is
Fred,
the
the
email
Capitals
address.
just scored. Look at your iPad. See if they were offside.
I can't.
No?
No.
Can't?
No.
Okay.
All right, so tons of emails coming in, which is great. As always, I thank people for their engagement, their participation. The most important email I see is from James in Atlanta by way of Maine. He wants to know if Deuce is wearing skinny jeans.
No.
I don't think so.
Deuce, you wearing skinny jeans?
Those aren't
So
skinny
they
jeans,
don't flare at the bottom, but I don't think they're skinny.
They're not skinny jeans?
They're
but
just tight.
They're the normal jeans that
I
come
think
out
they're
these
normal,
days.
yes.
Back in the day, jeans were a little bit more comfortable fitting. Now, your normal jeans are kind of skinny.
He's got some stretch to him, though. I like the stretch.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Stretchy jeans.
They like mom jeans? They're
Yeah.
stretchy?
Oh, I don't know about the mom jean part
No.
of it.
See, I remember.
That's what Fred makes fun of
I
me
remember
for.
when you bought denim jeans from Levi's. It took like a month before they were worked in.
Right.
They were like cardboard.
But then they were like party, and you had to hang on to them forever.
Oh, of course, but it took a while for them. Now they come already broken in. They're stretchy.
Yeah, they already got a
It's
hole
great.
in them.
It's not great.
It's awesome. It's because we realized that jeans actually aren't comfortable, so we're going to make them comfortable.
You
And
don't
now-
like jeans, that's right.
Now they look like jeans,
Oh,
but they
jeans
aren't
are very
actually
comfortable.
jeans.
Yeah, the jeans I wore, you could light a match on them. You know,
That's not comfortable, though.
Yeah.
The Fonz over here.
Fred's lighting up his cigarette.
Sure. My hand rolled cigarette. Yeah.
We missed that this year, Paulie. We haven't had the. I mean, Deuce, I agree.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Let's go to Texas. Jose on the TPX hotline. What's up, Jose?
Hey guys, how's it going?
All right.
So Fred, I was always with you. The morale of the locker room got to be up. So that's why I think we're going to beat the Bills this week, and we're going to be picking in the top 5. So
Why do you think the morale's up?
I mean, you just got to have faith.
Okay. So you want to win?
It's not that I want to win; it's for the locker room to have a good morale up. It's
Okay.
going to be a good start to the off season, and Drake Maye is just going to show up from there, and then we'll get one of those edge guys in the draft.
I mean, there's a possibility that the morale's up and they still lose. You know,
I just
Yeah. But okay, thanks, Jose.
Do you guys think that having the first overall pick, though, I mean, like, is it kind of a scarlet letter to wear, like, you're the worst team in the league last year, like that? I mean, as much as
I
you're like,
kind
we're
of think
first
like
overall,
that.
like, that's you get trotted out, like,
especially in
for the
a
next
year
3
like
months.
this. There's not a sort of obvious prize.
Yeah, right. That's what
you know,
stinks.
so
You
it's
didn't
Andrew Luck.
purposely do this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like Miles
I mean, I had
Garrett.
that feeling after the game on Sunday when I was home. I was like, they're the worst team in the NFL. Like, they're literally the worst team in the league. And I was like, that is just not fun place
You want
to
to know what, like to illustrate that, obviously you have the number one pick. So, but the whole tankathon thing, when you go on that website, you know what, like that's breaking down the tiebreakers of the strength of schedule. And you know why that they win the tiebreaker for everybody? Because their schedule is deemed to be easier than everybody else's.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, to Evan's point, like that just like sort of hits you right in the face.
Right.
team in the league.
Even with an easy schedule.
Even with an
we're
easy
worse.
schedule, we're not as good as the other teams.
Yeah.
That have, obviously the same amount of question marks. The Giants, I watched a lot of that Giants game because we got a Red Zone Sunday out of it, and man, like they played really well in that game. And I know it was a fluke; it was a one-off. I mean, I see what would happen the rest of the year, but like the Patriots haven't really had any of those,
except for week 1. Yeah.
But even that was a 16-10 nail biter in a game that was like borderline unwatchable.
Yeah.
This was like they couldn't stop them. The
No.
Colts couldn't stop them. They scored 45 points.
I know.
There might have been ways, like even last year, to point out some details of like, but not this year. I mean, as I said at the top, like all the stats back it up
And
across
please,
the board.
I don't want to hear about the close games.
Okay, so
The
I did.
one-score
So
games,
Fred, I
please.
told
There's
Paul
been
this.
8 of them, Fred.
I
I don't know.
I told Paul this. I had a
That's how
moment
many
where I
Giants
think I'm
have
like,
had.
oh, this would be a good Paul thing. I was at home and I heard Bedard yesterday on Felgrim and he mentioned this might be the worst Patriots season since 1992.
Yeah.
Which I think the Patriots went 2-14 that year, and so I was just curious and I looked up how many one-score losses that they had 5. They had 5 that season back then. So I mean, I think 5.
So how
6,
many
7
one-score losses they have this year?
Is it 6?
No, I did them
8.
No, there've been 8 one-score games.
8 one-score games, but I think
They won
6
2 of them.
Yeah, I think 6.
Like a few weeks ago, I did the math.
Yeah, 6.
69% of the games this season up to that point were 8
One-score
points or
games.
less.
Yeah, that's just how it.
That's how it works
goes.
in the NFL.
It's not like, oh, we're close. We just are a
As
couple
Billy
plays
used to
away.
say, there
It's-
are no homecoming games in the NFL.
The other thing that bugs me is the inconsistency thing, and that's what Gerard keeps hitting. Like, we just need to be consistent. I'm like, no, that's not it. What I've discovered is that every NFL team has a handful of plays during the season where they look competent, or games, or sequences, or quarters. But it's the good teams that start to play above and beyond, and it's not. Well, we're close games.
Well,
you make a couple
the follow-up
plays,
is why can't you be consistent?
Yeah.
And
Well.
that's because we're not a good team.
Right.
That's
Because
talent.
good teams are consistent.
Yeah, that's talent.
Yes,
right.
it's talent.
In Buffalo, they get out to a 14-0 lead, but they can't sustain it because they don't have the talent on the offense to sustain it. Right, like they can put a drive together here and there, but they can't.
And
keep
that's
that
part of
going.
my thing that I've sort of come around on with the consistency, the lack of consistency for the Patriots. It's really more about the other team.
Yeah.
Like the Chargers played really well. I'm not taking anything away from the Chargers on Saturday. They played really well. They were intense from the start of the game, and they had a couple of drops on the first drive, and then they were basically flawless for a long stretch. The Bills didn't have that intensity at the start of the game, and as Evan said, they fall behind 14-0. They turned it on for the next 2 quarters, scored 24 straight points, and then they ended up winning, somewhat easily at the end. So to me, it's more about what the other team is doing, consistency wise.
Yeah.
That's because they don't do anything. The Patriots don't do anything to threaten the
Right.
other team, whether it's scheme or it's talent. Like they don't do anything that is like
Well,
we got to prepare for this. Like we got to worry about
Bud
this.
Light is easy to drink, easy to enjoy. The Patriots are easy to offend and easy to defend.
I was gonna say it's both sides now.
Right.
I mean, if you look at it, the whole they lost 6 one-score games. So the record could be so much better. They're a yard away from being 1-15.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that guy for the Cincinnati that drops the ball as he's going into the end zone, and Ramondre Stevenson's game-winning touchdown was a blade of the grass, into the end zone. One less yard, and you could have 1 win.
Yep.
Then think about it. I mean, it's even that's like.
Yep. Kendall's in North Carolina. Hey, Kendall.
That's worst all-time team.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good.
I got a quick question. Does Elliot Wolf, does he attend the games? 'Cause I know I watch most games, and I see teams, they put their GMs and their owners, like in the press box, they actually put the camera on them during the game. But I don't really see Elliot Wolf, and does he speak during the season, or that more of a
He's there.
thing?
Yeah, usually on the road, he's in the press box, and at home, I don't know where he is, but
down
the coach's booth or something like
he used
that.
to sit up top near us in some of the home games,
Okay,
but not
thanks.
anymore.
Yep. That's
Thanks
it.
there.
Okay.
He's
wanna
there.
know
I always
where
find it
is Elliot?
strange though when we go down at halftime to grab some food,
Hey,
and
we're
then
in line
he
with
comes
them?
strutting out, and I'm walking with someone who's like, God, that was terrible, huh? And it's like, here comes Elliot Wolf walking right this way, like.
Do you think? You think it's been quiet? I think it's odd that we haven't heard from him.
Elliot?
Yeah, like during the course of the season. I know a lot of fans are starting to wonder why. Why isn't he spoken?
Yeah.
We haven't heard from him since August, right?
Not since the training camp press conference, which did not go well.
No.
Yeah.
And I just
if we did hear from him, it would be setting a new precedent for this team, because normally we didn't have a GM, so it was all Bill. So you'd be starting a new tradition, sort of, if you're, GM or senior executive, vice president, whatever his title is, started talking during the season.
You never heard from Pioli or Nick Caserio, any of those guys?
No, you didn't hear
who
from
were
them
in
until
those
the
ones?
offseason and the draft.
I do feel like we got
I think that's different.
trade deadline. I want to say 1 year we did get Macro.
Trade deadline?
Trade deadline.
Okay.
But very rare, and I have no problem with him not talking during the season, but he should talk next week.
I don't think I don't think he should talk during the season. I just don't, because nothing he says in a bad season can support.
Yeah, and
your
I don't
coach.
have the answer, because I don't know how other teams around the league do it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Brett Veach talks
Yeah,
in
does
Kansas
John
City.
Lynch
I don't
talk?
know.
They do talk a little
Does
bit.
John Lynch
Do they?
talk on a regular basis
Not
in San Francisco?
not like semi-regular, and I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but you look at just teams around town. I know it's different leagues and stuff, but they have end of year press conferences.
Oh yeah,
where
that's different.
The owner and the general manager,
Sure.
and
And
the
I would
coach are there,
I would
and-
think that we'll have one
Yeah,
of those. No?
but I think
it
it's a
should.
slippery slope unless it's a regularly scheduled thing. For all of a sudden your GM pops up, I'm going to do a press conference this week. Well, why this week?
Yeah, it's
Why
definitely
not
different.
last week?
It's
Why
definitely different in other sports.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you could probably do it in mid-season. Just
trade
just
deadline,
do
Yeah,
right?
but
one
again, it's
thing.
got to be scheduled.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're on the trade deadline. That's a good
Yeah,
time.
I
to-
just think
tough.
the Patriots way is different, because Bill was the GM,
Right.
and Bill spoke every day. So you didn't need to have
Yeah.
Pioli or Caserio talk. Bill was the guy.
Yeah. John writes in. He says, I disagree with Fred that we can't know whether it's the coaching or lack of talent that creates repeat mistakes. Everyone called the Chargers a well-coached team. Good coaching is putting players in the right spots, receivers not running into each other, defense rallying to the ball, in-game clock management, clear messaging. Same with recognizing good talent evaluation. If Mayo and Wolf get fired, who's lining up to hire them? Also, Drake Maye wasn't mentally broken in college when his coordinator changed. We have the chance to hire the best GM and head coach. Clean house, he says.
To be fair, Drake May's junior season was way worse than his sophomore season when they changed coordinators. Now they did lose some guys to the NFL as well, so that was part of it. But just to be fair, but I've come around on the idea of just with head coaches, I think it's kind of a catch-all, but culture is probably the most important part of who are you going to hire, what's the direction of the program, what's the philosophy, and I just haven't heard enough of that sort of thing with Gerard really since the beginning to be all jazzed up about his future, because I don't feel like Jim Harbaugh came in with a plan. He set a course for that organization and for what they were going to do. He brought in coordinators that are respected and that are been part of the Harbaugh tree for a very, very long time.
Yep.
And that's the sell to me with Vrabel, is that I feel like he would come in here with an idea of how they want to build the program, and with coordinator hires and with sort of a structure that he's going to put in place immediately. Whereas I feel like with Gerard, because of his experience, it's been more learn on the fly of how exactly we want to do those things. And I think that's kind of how we've gotten to this point.
Gary in Harvard writes in, he says, don't throw away the Christmas gift. And he's talking about that first overall pick. 3 facts, he says. Like all rookies late in the year, Drake May's tired, making him much more likely to get hurt. The Giants gave the Patriots an incredible gift. We absolutely cannot squander the first draft pick. In this specific draft, it is worth vastly more than the 4th pick. I don't know if I agree with that.
I think it's the opposite.
But I don't know. Again, it depends on the...
I'm not suggesting they should give away the pick or whatever, but I don't understand the mentality that...
Yeah. Getting a second great cornerback would be a dumb move given the other more important needs. So, play the rookies that aren't tired, get a bidding war going for pick number 1, and trade it for several lower picks, and use those on linemen, both sides. If Wolf can't pull that off, he needs to go. He and the evaluation staff needed to go after last year's draft. It was obvious to me the day after the draft, and the record proved it. So that's Gary's take.
It was obvious to you the day after the draft? You knew the day after the draft that Drake was going to be
But those are the kinds of quote-unquote plans that I think everybody would agree with. Yeah, trade the pick for a ransom. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Now get someone to give you a ransom. Yeah. That's the hard part.
I know.
Everybody has the idea of what to, trade for DK Metcalf, trade for Max Crosby, get a ransom in the draft. Yeah, those are all great plans. I agree. Is Ronnie Stanley available in free agency for Baltimore? They're not going to re-sign him. I'll take him too. But that's not you don't just snap your fingers and all these things happen.
Right.
You gotta execute it. What if those guys aren't really available?
Is there any world team wants to trade up for Travis Hunter?
I don't know.
That to me is the question, because right now I don't see I think teams are just going to sit and laugh at the Patriots being the first overall pick and saying,
agreed.
You got to just make that pick because we're not trading with you. We're going to wait for a quarterback.
You're Jacksonville in 2020.
And so,
from my view, I do not see a bidding war unfolding
me neither.
In this draft. If I'm to take these guys at their word, they talked a lot differently about the draft last year than they're talking about it this year.
This sounds exactly like the 2022 draft, which was my biggest fear. The Jaguars were stuck. They had Trevor Lawrence, but they didn't. They had the number 1 overall pick again, and there wasn't really a consensus number 1 overall guy in the draft. They end up taking Trayvon Walker, who's a good player, but he's not a number 1 overall pick player. And so now you don't really get anything out of it. It's not the home run.
And that's why it's like Travis Hunter. Let's go. He's
and
special.
If you can get someone that decides that he is worth a ransom, by all means. I think Gary's plan makes all the sense in the world. I just don't think it's as easy to execute
I think the only
as some
way,
other people do.
The only way that Travis Hunter is a draw to trade up to the number 1 pick is if some ownership group needs the jersey sales and needs the splash and needs the marketing.
That's a franchise that's not long for this world.
100%. But don't be that franchise, right? Let that be somebody else. And maybe, I think that that's crazy, but maybe there is a world where somebody says, we're going to draft him because he's going to be a phenom and we're going to be able to sell it.
He's got to be good.
And that's part of the appeal to me too. I'm not going to lie. You need somebody who's going to put butts in seats, and excuse me, instantly training camp gets more interesting with that guy in the mix.
Franklin in Baltimore, I'm glad you guys are covering the Patriots holding the number 1 draft pick, because I also disagree with most of Patriots Nation believing some team would trade a haul for either Ward or Sanders. The value just isn't there this year, and I expect a QB-needy team to overpay for Darnold / trade for McCarthy, depending on what the Vikings do, or just stick with a bridge quarterback rather than overdraft one. The Patriots were just a year late holding the number 1 draft pick. If this were last year, then this conversation would make sense.
Well, they would also
they would have chosen a guy.
Right.
They got lucky, I think, that they had the 3rd overall pick in a quarterback draft
with 3 quarterbacks.
Right. And with 6 quarterbacks.
It's starting to look now like at least 5. We haven't seen McCarthy, but Penix I thought looked pretty good again the other night.
That class last year, we're going to look back on that in 10 years and be like, what a draft.
I didn't even get to do my time management rant. I'll save that for later. I'll save it for Thursday.
John says he's got a report contrary to the Dane Brugler report. First, to point out that the quarterbacks would be 6th or 7th in last year's draft is kind of silly because they're not in last year's draft. They're in this one. But I know what he's saying, but that's what you do.
It's
to
just
continue with that,
people just want so much to have something
I
good
know.
happen. I get it, because Saturday was depressing. I get it.
To continue with that, Field Yates, who Evan also respects, and Mel Kiper had their mock draft podcast, and their feeling is because there's only 2 quarterbacks in this draft, that makes the market for the first pick even hotter. Yates had Shador and Cam Ward around the teens as far as prospects go, but said that a QB-needy team may not giving up a ransom such as what the Bears got, but you'll still be looking at potential future first and maybe a player. Now, to each his own, if players want to draft a play, I don't know what he means by here. Anyway, he's saying that because there's only 2, you won't get the king's ransom, but you could get more than you think.
Yeah, I mean, great. Like, I hope it happens. Like, I really do hope it happens. I just don't see it. I don't see these quarterbacks. It's not because you're not just taking the quarterback. Like, now you have to factor in, is Shador Sanders really worth the first overall pick plus me trading, a future first and multiple picks for him? Like, it's a whole package that you're thinking of trading. I don't see that in this draft with these quarterbacks. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I hope I am for the Patriots' sake, but I just don't see it happening.
There's a real part of me that just wonders if they might be better off ending up at 5, like if they're, or 4, whatever the lowest that they could do. I mean, I think a lot of us would be on the same page if you said, all right, they're going to make a trade, they're going to come away with Kelvin Banks in the top 10, and they're going to pick up an extra top 100 pick this year, and whatever it is next year. But to go into this draft with after round 1, you've got a tackle, and you've got a couple picks right away in that second round to work with. I think that's probably my dream scenario right now. And then you can, look at receivers and look at edge players and all the other needs that you need. But that's if he lined it up perfectly. I just don't know how to get there.
Well, that's why I would just make the trade anyway. Like, even if you're really trading it for less than what it would go for in other years, like, I still just think that the extra draft capital is worth it. Yeah. Right? Because you still want to get... You're still going to draft one of the same players, right? It's still going to be Banks, Abdul Carter, Tet McMillan. Yeah. Like, it might not be Travis Hunter, but okay, like, you're still drafting out of the same pool at 4 or 5 as you would be at 1 in a non-quarterback year. So then get whatever you can for it. Like, get the extra picks.
And then if you just have to take Banks at 4, and like maybe it's a little bit of a reach, but like it's a real need, and he's a legit left tackle.
Right, and you're taking Banks at 4 with what you got in the trade, right? So I'd still do it.
Yeah. Speed Fresno writes in, this is funny. After Saturday's calamity, I'm in full off-season mode. In that spirit, I'd like to present the following catalog of the most overused words or phrases on the show. Here we go. Paul's most overused word is overly, as in, I'm not overly concerned with who they pick in the 6th round, or I wasn't overly impressed by you too. Close second is saying, I'm sorry when not really sorry about anything. Fred's most overused phrase is when I was 14, but a close second is his use of as in, let's go to the TPX hotline. Mike's used to be, I'm curious, but has become, it's just so, followed by a dejected adjective as in, it's just so disappointing, or it's just so frustrating.
He usually says that to me. I'm just so disappointed in you, Paul.
Just so disappointed in you,
Evan's most overused word is right. It's the go-to filler word of many intellectual types, right? Also for Evan, Toyota gets an honorable mention. Alex's is anything synonymous with manifest. Second place goes to the Chiefs. Is that Alex, our Alex or your Alex?
No, Alex Francisco.
Okay. Yeah. Tamara is any sports cliche as in, you got to leave it all on the field, or that's why they play the game. No socks is correct. I'm not giving Marine one because he still owes me a T-shirt. Andy's was horrific, though truly his most overused expressions were gaseous in nature. That's true. Eric's was nothing because he said anything, because he never said anything. Todd's is everything, he says, because he says nothing. For Patty, I can't tell because he's too effing wasted. And Nick Baby Loves is Capi de Poopy Capo, because we all know it's okay to make fun of Italians. Others in consideration were Biggie's Horn Toots, Christian's All Right, Sweet Kids, Sup Y'all, and Hardy's Crusty Laugh, but those aren't overused since they're all always awesome. It's kind of like a New Year's rap for
a little
Speed.
A little bit.
TPX hotline, 855-PASS-500. Let's see what's going on over there. We'll start with Nelson in Louisiana. What's up, Nelson? Or is that L.A.? L.A., I'm sorry. What's up, Nelson? Nelson! He's not there. All right, we'll go down to Florida, where Zach is waiting. What's up, Zach?
Hey, guys. Hope you're all doing well. I don't usually get a call in or watch live, so if you've covered this already, my apologies. I had one quick question and then a mini rant I'll take offline. The first is, I know the draft doesn't actually work this way, but if we could add one of Malik Neighbors or Joe Alt to the team right now, who do you think would have made a bigger impact this season? And then if you guys want to apply that to the receivers and the tackles in this year's draft as well. I know we'll add more through free agency and then through the rest of our draft picks, but I actually think the answer might be Neighbors. I just feel like the way he makes plays and is able to score touchdowns from anywhere on the field would be a huge thing for Drake and this team to have. And then the rant I have is there's two things you can always be regardless of the talent you have on the team, and that's prepared and confident. I don't get a call, so some of this is older news, but this team clearly lacks confidence, which I think is on display by Gerard Mayo after the Cardinals game, coming out and just listing a bunch of stats and how the game was closer than it actually felt. And it feels like we don't have confidence that we're doing the right thing, so we have to over-justify what we're doing to get to that point. And two is the lack of preparation. I feel like that's on display most weeks, whether it's the Titans game, not electing to go with the wind change in overtime or other things that have happened along the season. I'm not a fire Mayo guy 100%, but I just don't know how you can justify two elements that are essential to good teams being completely void on this team and feeling confident that those two elements are going to start to show up. And that's everything I have. I'll take it off the line, guys.
Thanks, Zach. Good call.
You get confidence by winning and having success. So I think it's hard to have confidence when you're 3-13.
What about the other part, preparation? And
that I agree with. I mean, I think preparation and just overall direction are big problems.
So I would say that the preparation has been very inconsistent. Like, I think the Buffalo game, you come out, you drive right down the field and score, and then you come up with a stop and you drive right down the field and score again. That's good preparation. But then you get the game like this past one where you can't even move the ball for the first half of the game, and the other team's going right down the field. So I think it's been wildly inconsistent. There have been games that I thought early in the game they looked pretty good offensively, and then it got progressively worse from there for obvious reasons.
Right.
Like, you come out with a good plan, that means you tricked them a little bit for a while,
Right.
and you overcame your lack of
They
talent.
adjust.
They adjust, and then you don't really have any talent.
Listen, we talked about it earlier. They're just not that good.
Neighbors or Alt? Who would have made the bigger impact?
I'd go Neighbors.
I'd say Neighbors probably makes the biggest
I would say Neighbors,
year
too.
one impact. I would prefer Joe Alt in terms of the long term.
He's more cerebral.
But I agree. I agree that year one, Neighbors probably would have been more splashy and would have made more plays. But how many wins did the Giants have with Malik Neighbors?
No, I don't think it would have made a huge impact on the team.
Yeah.
Per se.
But having, you wouldn't have Drake and Neighbors, but in a dream world where you had Drake and Neighbors, that would be awesome to build forward with both those guys. I agree with that.
Cameron thinks that new uniforms will heal all. So we need new uniforms to heal everything.
Is Cameron a.k.a. Mike?
Yeah.
I'm not willing to rule that out.
I mean, I got a whole take on the uniforms that they're like a symptom of why things need to be fixed around here, because the uniforms, we joke about, do we like them or not?
Stink.
What?
But no matter how you feel about how they look, they've just been kind of Frankenstein together. Like this year, we're like, hey, what if we did these pants with that one? There's no real thought or plan going into these uniforms.
You're so right, Deuce. You are so right.
It's kind of a metaphor.
He might have hit on it
for the whole team.
Yeah,
right.
That might be the key.
Are you guys being serious right now?
No, I'm dead serious.
We need to blow up everything, including
I have a take on it. I'm not sure I should be sharing.
Even go into sometimes the wrong numbers are on and people are like,
we
that's
don't have
old
the
jersey
C for Jacoby.
Jacoby,
what are we doing?
The font's wrong on the back sometimes. It's just, to me, it speaks to the uniforms have been Frankenstein. This whole kind of operation has kind of been Frankenstein with pieces from Bill and pieces from Gerard, and I don't know. It's just representative of the whole thing to me.
It's a great point.
I think you might be onto something there.
I appreciate it.
Yep. Matt says, I disagree with Paul. Beating the Bills Sunday is meaningless. Who cares if they beat the Bills' second string? In a worst case, Travis Hunter is the only can't-miss prospect, and picking one assures at least you get that.
Yeah.
In the best case, someone gives you something for number one pick because they want a quarterback. Even a 1 and a 2 is better than picking at 4.
So how do you disagree with me?
I don't know.
I don't think there's any meaning in beating the Bills on Sunday.
No. I just I realize though it's if you just accept and you're okay with the Patriots selecting Travis Hunter, I think it'll be a peaceful spring. But it might be more beneficial to take the stance of like, nope, wrong pick, nope, don't want him, because I think there are a lot of Travis Hunter stands out there that would really get fired up by those. Like,
I push
like
back
how can
on
you
the
not
can't-
love him? You know,
I
I do. I'm
miss
on
thing.
your team, but
I push back on the can't miss thing a little bit. I
On
don't,
Travis Hunter?
Yeah, because where is he playing? Like that's such a major factor in him as a player that in itself is a complication that could lead.
See, I think to me, in what I've seen of him, and I haven't crushed it like you have, he's shown the attributes of an elite corner.
Yes.
So you bring him in and he
The
plays.
raised eyebrows.
Yeah. So you bring him in and you play corner. Now you're in a position where you've got two, maybe all pro, but certainly Pro Bowl corners on your team. And when it comes time to make a decision, if you don't want to pay both of them, now you've got trade fodder to keep building your team.
I just worry about if it's this coaching staff and it's this regime, like getting that right is a factor. Like I'm not saying that they won't necessarily. I don't have a lot of faith, but I'm not saying that they won't. But like, it's not the talent that's like holding me up. That's a lot. Like that's going to be a lot to negotiate and a lot to sort of manage.
Well, then you're worried about anyone they bring in. At the top pick or top four.
No, not really though, because if you draft Kelvin Banks, like he's playing left tackle. If you draft Abdul Carter, he's coming off the edge. Like you know where these guys are going to play.
So have you at all been concerned with people talking about Banks? Like I heard other people earlier talking about Campbell as a guard.
No,
because I hadn't heard that at all, and that sort of made the rounds last week.
Are the arms?
This is one of my biggest pet peeves, is that we get into the draft and every tackle is a guard. Every tackle, he's going to move inside to guard. Like, okay, well, hold on for a second. Like, what is your reasoning for moving him inside? Because Campbell, okay, you can point to the arm length. That's a legitimate reason, maybe. But with Banks, I don't see a legitimate reason to
he
move
looks
him inside.
prototypical in terms of
I don't see it.
body type and athleticism.
I don't see it. Now, do I think that he's going to be Joe Alt or the next Joe Thomas or whatever? Not necessarily, but I just don't see why we have to move him inside. And with Campbell, like if he measures in at 32 7/8 and the threshold is 33, you're telling me that he automatically has to play guard?
Yeah.
Like we're not even going to give him a chance to see if he can play tackle first?
Like I think I remember talking to Dante, and one of the most important things he said was footwork.
Yeah.
It's how your feet work. It's keeping in position, keeping your base. You can make up for, a tenth of an inch in your arm if your footwork is good.
Right.
Yeah, 100%.
You know?
I think we do this way too often, and I think the league does it. And then they look around and they're like, we have no tackles. And it's like, yeah, because you moved all the college tackles inside to guard, right? And so then you end up being a team like the Titans that draft back-to-back offensive linemen because Skoronski, you automatically defaulted to moving him inside. So now the next year you have to draft another tackle. It's like, let's let them fail outside first.
Developing players. It's all about, does the NFL have enough good quality coaches to develop these people? Bubba says, I can't believe what I'm hearing from Fred and Mike. We need an NFL caliber O-line and wide receivers. Those are priorities. The rest is nice to have. Defensive tackle and edge rushers are nice, but without an O-line and wide receivers, we're wasting Drake's talent. We have a good long-term solution at quarterback. Let's build on that. Please leave the nonsense in 2024.
Oh.
All right, so we're not going to touch the worst defense in the league. That's good. We'll just get some tackles and wide receivers.
And we're going to crowbar guys that may not be as good because it's an issue of need. No, you take the best players.
Yeah,
I mean, I've been watching this defense all year, and they have needs on that side of the ball.
They need everything except quarterback.
And corner one. They have one corner.
Yep.
I'll allow.
You'll allow it.
TPX hotline.
I mean, they have two players that people would say we have answers to the question. Yeah, there's 53 spots. We have two that people feel good about, and we're getting bitchy.
Now
about
we're getting picky.
What you guys want, and
Right.
as opposed to what Evan and I want, they can pick anything.
But I'm also on Fred's side of the street a little bit of Mike Onwenu would be a perfectly serviceable right guard
yeah.
if they had real talent that were making were game changer talent.
Yes.
Right? Like if you had, Hunter Henry is a perfectly capable starting tight end in the NFL. I think Ramondre is a decent running back. They just don't have the game changers. You know, they don't have the needle movers.
Yeah. No, there's players on this team I'd keep, but they're not. Now we need to get into contention.
Well, like Anthony Jennings is an example. Like,
yeah.
That guy can set the edge in the NFL. Like that, for whatever it's worth. Ish.
I don't know. He's another member of the front seven that can't stop the run. Whose job is to stop the run.
He does his job.
He does
sometimes,
his job. I think
sometimes he does his job.
He does his 111.
Paul, you're going to let us have this.
He didn't do
Anthony
his job
Jennings
in Buffalo.
Can stop the run.
He had an awful game in Buffalo.
Yeah, he did. He had.
But he's a rotational piece, right? Like he's a third edge guy. He's a third guy that, like, all right, he's going to probably play a little early down.
Yep.
And that's a piece. But so if you get two edge guys and you have your your Judon and your McGinnis or whoever it is, then all right, Anthony Jennings is a nice little piece, and he's going to come in and play a good role for you, and be and you're not asking him to do as much. You're not asking him.
We got a lot of Robins. We need some Batman.
This is why I agree with you, Mike. I think that if you can sell me that wide receiver is the biggest need, left tackle's the biggest need, edge rusher is the big. You can sell me on any of these. So that's why I just said you need to evaluate the players and decide which guy you think is the most talented player who's going to have the best career, and pick them, because they need to fill a hole everywhere.
Yeah. I would also say, like, to your point, is about Anthony Jennings. I think with Bill, he was so good at being really hyper specific about roles.
Yeah.
Right. So he had, instead of getting like one really good 3-down edge rusher, they had Anthony Jennings and Josh Uche. So Anthony Jennings would play on early downs and Uche would play on third downs, and they would rotate. Whereas with this team now, with this coaching staff, I feel like they just need to get dudes. Like, I don't think that
Uche was on the team this year. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was. It's true.
I just don't think that they can do it that way anymore. I think Bill had a really unique skill of being able to piece it together and knowing how to use everybody exactly how they need to be used. I think you just need to draft Abdul Carter and hope that he can play on all 3 downs.
Well, and that's why some of Bill's draft picks were...
Got an off-air story about him.
Some of Bill's draft picks were so, kind of like head-scratching, because he wanted players who he could use like chess pieces.
Yeah.
It's all role specific.
Right. But then you end up where you're kind of at this year, where you have a bunch of different role pieces.
Right.
But you can't put them together to just play fundamental defense when you need to. Like, I think that's the biggest thing I've seen this year. They have nothing to hang their hat on. They don't take the ball away. They don't stop the run. They don't rush the passer. They're kind of out there getting pushed around.
And then, like, the offensive line, for all the talk, and people are going to be laughing because I'm always the guy. Yeah. Just figure that out. Mike Reese tweets out today that they're dead in whatever the ESPN rankings are.
Been telling you this.
Dead
all
last
season.
in both.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like.
Yep.
Like across the board. Whether you use win rate, PFF grade.
Oh, I know.
But
like
win rate and run block win rate.
Yeah.
And pass block win rate. Dead last.
They have the worst offensive line.
Now
in the
there are
NFL.
teams that are somehow find a way to do things despite that, like Cincinnati.
20s. We're in the 20s.
Yeah. Just. You got to get serviceable. Just be serviceable.
Right. It's kind of special in a negative way to be this poorly ranked and everything. Like, even, some of the past Patriots teams, like, they'd be bad at a couple things, but you knew they'd always have a couple things that they did well.
Serviceable is a good word.
Jared's in the District of Columbia. Right. What's up, Jared?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good.
Yeah, just wanted to point out the draft is like 3D chess, right? You have the best players available for your team and the opponent's team. So sometimes it's on record, GM saying that they'll take a guy just so another team doesn't take a guy. I propose an idea of staying within the top 4, hopefully getting Travis Hunter, and then trading back into the first round to take a tackle like Wyatt Millum. I think that's perfectly feasible.
Yep.
If Elliott Wolf knows what he's doing in the draft. Secondly, to keep Gerard Mayo,
they make it sound like it's easy.
You would have to change the offensive coordinator. And if that doesn't work for year 2, you're giving Drake May 3 different offensive coordinators in 3 different years. That destroys quarterbacks.
Why are we trading?
So I would say you got to clear house. You got to get rid of Mayo. You got to get rid of Wolf, and give Drake May a chance with a head coach that knows what he's doing and offensive coordinators that don't coach cowardly. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Can I
Thanks,
just-
Jared.
Like the whole changing offensive coordinators, I totally readily admit is not the ideal situation, but there's a lot of guys that have dealt with that and been fine.
Yeah. Well, and I think too. I mean, maybe Evan can speak to this a little more than I can, but I mean, generally speaking, I don't think Van Pelt's parent system is this crazy thing where there are a lot of other coordinators that probably would have a lot of crossover with Alex Van Pelt. Whereas if you were to go to McDaniels, I think that is kind of a jarring switch where now you're asking Drake to make line calls, you're putting a lot more on his plate. Like that is a little bit different.
Hope Josh should be smart enough to know that what Tom Brady did, Drake May isn't ready to do yet.
I'm less
but it would
worried
be
about
his
that.
system.
I'm more worried about the language change. Like
Right.
the concepts are the concepts. Like I don't think NFL teams are running concepts that are totally different from system to system, but it's like it's a little like speaking Italian instead of Spanish.
Just ask Cam Newton. They changed it. He came back from COVID and
But
they changed the whole.
but Mike is right. They're going to put it's a lot different system. It's not because of the play necessarily. The only thing I could say for Josh McDaniels on the plus side would be that if it works, he probably would be here for a while.
Yeah.
You could conceivably see him
Hopefully
being with
he's-
Drake May's entire career
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I don't think Josh McDaniels getting another head coaching job.
Yeah.
Or he's even looking.
He's certainly not going to get one really quickly.
Yeah.
I just don't understand, like, with Van Pelt, I just really feel like you're scapegoating Van Pelt if he's the one that goes. And I'm not saying you can't upgrade Alex Van Pelt because everybody can probably be upgraded on this staff. But, like, is that really the side of the ball that's been the worst? And is that really the side of the ball that should take the heavy criticism when he's got, like, waiver claims starting out in the offensive line and, stuff like that?
If you're either the Crafts, Gerard Mayo, or Elliott Wolf, how much of Drake May's opinion do you take in a candid one-on-one conversation about Alex Van Pelt? Like if he tells you, no, he's really good. I've learned a lot from him. Keep him.
0.01%.
You don't care.
Very little.
Do I not care? I said 0.01%.
I know. You don't care.
I just what is he going to say? This guy's a train wreck.
No,
We got to get
but
him out.
This is after the season. This isn't public. This is just between the two of us.
Yeah, I would assume that he likes Alex Van Pelt.
Okay. Does
Duly noted.
So, but does that mean anything to you?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm with Paul on that one. I mean, I respect
right.
Drake's opinion, but we got to do what's best for the organization. What
We gotta
Evan
do
said
what's
though,
best for Drake too.
that's what scares me the
But
most.
Drake doesn't know what's best for him. That's why
I would
don't
at least
really-
hear him out. I
Yeah.
don't know how much
That's
of.
what-
I'm not making.
I
a
didn't say it's
decision based
zero.
off Drake.
It's just a smidgen above zero.
Okay.
And I would also say that I agree. In large part what Evan said. I think Alex Van Pelt is out of those guys has done his job the best.
Yeah.
I said this in the post game show.
Yeah.
I said it on our chin wag on the other post game show on the Sports Hub. Wolf, Mayo, Covington, Van Pelt. All four of them have sort of been under fire. I think a strong argument can be made that Van Pelt has done his job better than the other three.
Yeah, and if
but
they make
he
him,
seems like he's the guy
right,
that's going
and
to
if they make him walk the plank, I think that is a terrible, terrible way to go about this.
If he's the only one,
take the one guy who was the outsider,
not good,
who actually
had the hardest job,
job, and actually did some good things with your most important player, and then to make him the sacrificial lamb for this season, without
good.
addressing the defense or the scouting staff or anything else.
Yeah.
That would be.
I couldn't agree more.
Lucas in Maine says, I have a wrap-up of the year by each month on how people were feeling. January, happy season was over and looking forward to the draft. February, May, mostly from Evan, but everyone agreed. March, even more May, you guys were obsessed, but so was I. April, draft. We got May and Polk looks good. May, optimism from everyone except for Paul, but that was to be expected. June, Polk looks great, and May, they both look amazing in shorts. July, we have a little bit of optimism, especially from the defense, from Mike. Okay, I think he means that you were optimistic. August, season is almost here. Who is going to start? May should start, Jacoby should not. September, we won our first game and kept it competitive in the next few. Maybe it's okay that May is sitting. October, put May in.
Not few, but next one they were competitive in.
October, put May in. Polk looks horrible, and we don't have a defense or offense. November, May looks great, but nothing else does except Gonzo. Let's go to the draft. December, this is a bad team. Even Mike can't say the defense is good. It's a dumpster fire except May and Gonzo. Let's go to the draft. Thank you guys for keeping us informed. I don't miss an episode, even though I'm 16. You guys keep me entertained, and I truly appreciate it. So there you go.
That's
16.
an awesome.
We're starting them young.
There you go.
Even the 16-year-olds are snarky with me.
I'm very sorry that you are becoming a Patriots fan at this time instead of when I was 16.
Yeah,
and
you'll
we were
appreciate
going
it
to
more
the
when they
Super
get
Bowl
back.
every other year.
You'll appreciate it more when they get back.
Most guys get credited when they accurately portray something. I get scorned and mocked and ridiculed.
Robert in Nevada. What's up, Robert?
Hello. I just had one quick question. What side of the fence are you? Are you guys on the fire Mayo side or keep him for next year? So I don't know if you guys already talked about that or not, but I'll take that off the air. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are we on the fire Mayo or keep him?
I'm on the keep them, but short leash. I haven't liked a lot of what I've seen. I just think you knew what you were getting into. It's a little bit bumpier than I expected, but this is what you believed in. I think to just completely change course is a bad signal. So I guess right now I'm on the keep them for another year.
Yeah, I mean, what hits home for me is the short leash, and there just isn't really much to believe right now. Like, it's hard to believe the message from them based on
I'm
what
worried.
the season happened.
I'm worried, and I was always on the keep Mayo, but I'm worried because nothing has improved.
Yeah,
you can say that.
I can't argue with that.
You can say that under the umbrella of first-year head coach, you knew things were going to be rocky, and fair enough. But you expected that, like, some things would show as the season progressed and as he learns in season, some things would get better. And I don't see any sign of that. So if I'm Robert Kraft or Jonathan Kraft, who I assume is making the call, I mean, I don't know, I guess, I got to look him in the eye and say, what's going on, man? Like, tell me why I should keep you.
Yeah.
You got to make a strong case to me because you haven't shown signs of growth. And I know it's only one season, but even the micro steps, I haven't seen that. Now, I say that, and I always say that we, meaning this show and even, the scribes, we don't have the information that the Crafts have or Elliot Wolf has. So we're at a disadvantage. We only know what we see and hear. So for us to make a judgment, it's always tough. Not just with Mayo, but with Wolf and all these assistant coaches. We don't know who's really doing a good job and who isn't, and how much of it is the players and how much. We just don't have that info. So we can only go with what we see. And what I've seen is no improvement whatsoever. And that really, really scares me because this is a critical off season.
Yeah, it just feels like everything has been on shaky ground since really he took over the job, where it just feels like everything is just kind of flying by the seat of your pants a little bit without a real plan and without the experience to pull from to formulate a really good plan. And I just, it's hard to envision it getting better in terms of, what does he bring to the table and what does he do well, and, whether it's schematic or it's just from a culture direction standpoint. Now, with that being said, I would like to know who they could get, right?
Who's coming in?
And I think that's the thing
that's huge.
Even more so, the Crafts would probably be able to know 10 times more than we could. So if you're telling me that today Mike Vrabel or Gerard Mayo, I'm probably taking Vrabel.
Me too.
Now, I think it was not last post game. We made it the last one that we had a home game. I said, to Patriots fans, I say, you're praying that Mayo does get better. Rather than having to start over with a new coach and a new regime and all that, you're praying that Mayo can get the hang of it.
Yeah.
And that way you have the continuity. That said, changes have to be made otherwise, but you're hoping that Mayo is the guy because then I think the redemption for the team is quicker than having to start over. But I don't know. Tell me what the plan is if Mayo's not going to be here.
I just also, the last thing, it hasn't been a lot of players, but Keon White coming out and being as disgruntled as he's sound over the last couple of days. And I give him some credit, honestly, for standing on it after the game. This was not a Keyshawn Booty walk back. This was, I feel this way, and I still feel this way 2 days later.
And he's also calling himself out for not playing well, which I like that part of it. And I said it last week when you came in with those quotes, before he added the stuff about the coaches.
Yeah, that was the one-on-one with
the
Karen.
changes.
I just worry with that is at the tip of the iceberg of players starting to really get disgruntled.
Right.
And that's one of your young, talented players on this roster, one of your few. And now all of a sudden, if that trickles to Christian Gonzalez and that trickles to Drake Maye and that trickles to other guys in that locker room, then you really have a problem on your hands.
It's a really tight rope to walk. And I mean, with Gerard stays, like, they're going to have to figure out a way to get the fan base excited and enthusiastic about, there has to be other changes made. But one point I'd like to make, Fred, is I'd like to know what's the deal with the scouting staff. Like, this draft felt just as inept as the last ones did. How much are all these people involved? How much has Elliott Wolf been overseeing these previous couple drafts? How much input did he have into these picks? All the other people that have, essentially, I think the scouting staff mostly stayed the same. That is getting a serious look critically from me because the drafts have been bad. And that, like, we can talk about coaching, sure, but you got to pick talented players. Like, they have to find ways to find these guys. It's going to take forever. They're going to be chasing their tails if they don't start stacking drafts where they're hitting on three guys. I mean, you can't do it one a year. One a year, you're going to be stuck in the same position.
Yeah, it's also tough to say, like, I think I agree with Paul that there's a developmental aspect of this too. Like, is Jalen Polk just bad, or is he getting bad coaching?
Yeah.
Is he getting bad coaching? Is, any of these guys, Baker, Layden Robinson, like any of these players that have come in. And I think the only way that you really stabilize this thing with Mayo is you go out in free agency and you spend a bunch of money on proven veteran talent. That it's they're finished
no more talent
products.
Complaints. Right.
They're finished products. You sign T. Higgins. Like, you don't need to coach up T. Higgins.
You trade for Quinnen Williams and Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, sure. Like, you already know those guys can play in the league, so you're not handing him rookies that he's trying to develop. You're handing him finished products.
Speaking of veterans, I don't know about proven talent, but we should say that it's being widely reported that Ngakoue has been released.
Oh, it's been confirmed.
Oh, it's been confirmed?
Yes.
Okay.
No, Schefter tweeted that this morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
We didn't mention that.
It was a waiver claim that I personally didn't see much sense in at the time that they made it, and certainly he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything that changed my mind.
Why today?
Well, it
Like,
said
why?
how desperate they were to just get a little edge rush. They didn't get it, but that's what I think.
Is it just to give him a chance today to maybe catch on with another team? Because he sure didn't show much here to make me think that there are teams that are going to be.
Oh no, I think it's too late, right? If it's after. Oh no, you can still do it this week, right?
No.
I don't know.
I'm thinking of the whole Calais Campbell thing in Miami.
Yeah.
Like, they said if they had gotten eliminated, they were going to release him to give him a chance to catch on with the playoff team, but now they're still alive. So
Sorry.
I don't know if you guys watched any of that game the other day. He was unbelievable.
He's like 38.
Yeah.
He keeps going.
Still a good player.
Neil in New Brunswick, I'm getting a little tired of the at least we got our quarterback narrative. Did we? Maybe. But if we're going to be real, we're doing a pretty massive projection when we say that. I've heard him called a franchise quarterback by some media. He has more concussions than wins. He has 10 interceptions, 9 fumbles. Oh, and the guy he replaced has won more games on an equally brutal team. Yeah, Mac Jones, and he's terrible. I think Maye is a guy, but it's in pencil, not pen. And if we keep Mayo Wolf and crew, we'll be wasting another 12 months of his potential development. I really think we need to get a modern offensive coach for Maye to make sure we do everything possible to make him into a franchise quarterback.
I think it's fair to say that he's not a finished product. I push back a little bit on the like if he had Brian Thomas Jr. and those receivers that they have in Jacksonville, I think he'd be a lot better off than he is now. But I understand the general point that I do think I wouldn't say crowned, but where he has the traits of a franchise quarterback. Now we got to mold the clay a little bit.
I'm with Evan, and I would say that somewhere in between and I think this emailer is really accurately portraying it. I think that he's been crowned here by a lot of the local media, and I would be somewhere in between that and that email, because I think Evan's right to push back a little bit on the email. If I'm going to be completely convinced that I don't have anything to worry about at that position, I'd like to see at least like a 300-yard, 30-plus point performance, and we didn't get any of those. And I don't care what happens Sunday; that doesn't matter against the JVs. Like, I think 280 yards is like his career high. They're not losing these games 38-34.
No.
And I understand the limitations of talent around him, but I also see some of the issues have been him. And I think Evan did a great job of illustrating some of the stuff in this last game against the Chargers where he didn't necessarily handle some of the adversity well that he faced. I still think he's a guy who runs around recklessly. I think even when he came back into the game on Saturday, he ran around recklessly a little bit. So to me, the thing that is like a no-brainer, no doubt, he has the requisite ability to play at a high level in the NFL.
No doubt.
He can run, he can throw, he moves, throws off platform, and he certainly appears to have displayed an aptitude for the position. The rest is completely unknown, and I think that a lot of my colleagues, one of which I respect greatly, Phil Perry, said that he is a top 5 quarterback. And I just don't know what you've seen to prove that that's what he's going to be.
Well, the biggest thing we haven't had a chance to see yet is clutch. We don't know how he is in the clutch, and that's what this league is all about.
He's top 5 quarterback.
It's how are you when you're 2 points down with a minute left and no timeouts?
They went down a whole list of quarterbacks, and he said he got Maye over this one, Maye over this one, Maye, and I was just like, I feel like I'm in Bizarro world, and I am as big a Drake Maye guy as there is. I wanted to draft him from the very start, and I wanted to play him from the very start. I was with Fred on that, right from this. I know Evan was, strong, and we all were, as the emailer earlier said, we were all on the Maye bandwagon, and I haven't seen anything to say I was wrong.
Yeah,
but I also haven't seen anything to say he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league now. Like I haven't seen that.
Yeah,
he does a really nice job of already reading coverages for a young quarterback.
Yeah,
reading rotation, understanding where the weaknesses and the spaces in certain zones, like understanding this is man to man and I have to throw the ball here or there or whatever to get the receiver open, like throws guys open, understands zone coverage. Like he's got it all, but it hasn't been a finished product. I mean, I still feel like the biggest thing to me that I want to hone in with him, he leaves the pocket too much when he doesn't have to.
Has he really even had one complete, really good game? Like 60 minutes?
I don't think so.
I think
maybe the Colts?
He was really, really close against the Rams and the Colts. Like he played really well in both those games. But to Fred's point,
I didn't like the end of the Rams game. The Colts game, I think, was pretty close.
Yeah, you get but that's to Fred's point, right? Like he had a chance at the end of the Rams game. It would have been a 90-yard touchdown drive to win the game with like a minute left, but he had a chance and he threw a pick.
But those would be my two choices. Yeah. Certainly the Rams and Colts. I don't know. I just feel like people are getting. I think the emailer's premise is right. I think people are getting ahead of themselves a little bit.
Ethan is.
Fred's proud of him.
Ethan
said it in a meeting today.
West Kentucky. What's up, Ethan?
Hey guys, long time no call.
Hey.
I was just going to get on here and rant a little bit. Like, part of my problem with Mayo and the Patriots and this coaching staff is, and y'all touched on it earlier, we have yet to even come close to finding an identity. Like, not to keep going back to when we were good, but on defense, back in the day, we would sit back and we'd play a really tight match look or, play man and bring pressure. And sure, we're going to give up the underneath stuff. We're going to give up the hitches. We're going to give up the seams in cover 3, but once we get down in the red zone, we're going to stop you. You're going to kick a field goal, and we're going to get the ball back. I mean, on defense, it just looks like we run around, not knowing what's going on, not believing in the scheme we're running. We can't get pass rush. We can't play man coverage. And, I mean, all that just points back to coaching. I mean, there's just no way around it. I know there's a severe lack of talent, but when you can't form an identity or you can't say, hey, we're not that great talent-wise, but we're going to be really good at one thing. We're going to play tough, or we're not going to blow assignments, and all that. And then you go to offense, and it's like we bounce back and forth between this West Coast spread offense and under center vertical power run. And, we're not like, Drake May's our only playmaker. Booties looks fine, and, Ramondre's okay, but you have to, call plays and structure an offense around your playmaker. Look what Todd Monken did in Baltimore with Lamar, because when he came out, there was a lot of doubts, and it wasn't, this sure thing, and he's going to end up being, a top 15 quarterback of all time. Or you look what Kingsbury's done with Daniels in Washington, and it's like we just want to line up under center, and we're going to be this hard-running football team, and we're going to run to set up the pass, play action, and we're just not playing to anybody's strength. And I just don't get it. It's like, why are we going to stick with this Cleveland Browns, vertical power run? And I just, it's just so frustrating. And, this team's not tough. And, just like what Anford Jennings said to the media about the fans, we have it right. We're not spoiled. We've watched 5 years of horrendous football, and I'm so sick of it. And I know I'm from Kentucky, but I know everybody up there is sick of it. I mean, it's just been hard to watch. And, I care a lot about this football team, and I care a lot about football. I coach football, and I haven't missed a game in, so many years, and it's just so frustrating. And I try to be reasonable and try to be rational. And, firing a coach after year one is, not necessarily reasonable in my opinion, but it's just got to happen, guys. We're not close. He hasn't showed a flash. When Dan Campbell was 3-14 with Detroit, there was a flash. Those guys were playing hard. He had Detroit bought in around, and the players were bought in, and we're not. We're just so far from anything competent. We're a college football team.
Yeah.
And it's just getting, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm just frustrated. But, hey, I appreciate you guys. I listen every day.
Well,
y'all do a great
That's a great
job.
call, Ethan. Thank you. That's a great call. Well thought out.
It's more of a catch-22
Here's
call.
the point that Ethan's making.
I know we're out of time.
Our head coach didn't have an identity coming in.
Yeah.
You couldn't even say this is the type of defense that he coordinated because he never coordinated a defense, let alone an offense.
Yeah.
So he had no identity.
Yep.
And I think all season he's been searching for his own identity. That's hard to do when you're losing games.
Yeah.
That becomes your identity now. Yeah. So it's, but Ethan made the point better than I just did. And that's it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the power running aspect of the.
Well, you got excited when he said the vertical power run.
Hey, look, it was a good call.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that necessarily. But if Van Pelt's staying, he's got to make a really good presentation of what is Drake Maye 2.0 look like.
Yeah.
In terms of adding some of the quarterback run elements.
Yeah, I don't care what you used to do in Cleveland.
Yeah, right.
You didn't have Drake Maye in Cleveland.
Like, I don't care if it's zone or if it's, gap or whatever, but they have to add a quarterback run element to this offense.
And they have to add talent. I mean, we can talk about all the schemes all we want. They're not going to work with this group.
All right. That's it for this edition. We're not going to be on tomorrow, New Year's Day, but we'll be back Thursday with another Patriots Unfiltered. Thanks for calling, emailing, listening today. We'll see you on Thursday.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original podcast.